You know, Charles, I think it's possible that they might have secretly fixed something without telling me, because I know you're going to tell me not to say this, but the system is working quite well. How are you, Charles?
I'm very well, Jason. Happy Passover, I guess.
Oh, yes, and happy Easter as well.
Yeah, it's
I wanted to make sure I had the Passover Seder covered, so second night was eggplant parmesan. Look where we are, Charles.
Easter eggplant. So here we are.
Easter eggplant parmesan. That's a great idea.
This guy's, so here we...
Twitter. He doesn't care at all.
So this is the New York headquarters of Twitter, and over here
We're about to get attacked by a van of Twitter mercenaries, perhaps.
And here we have the executive director's chauffeur-driven bicycles, bike rack out
Pete
here.
Buttigieg is here.
Exactly. So until you call, I mean, obviously I knew about Twitter, and I use Twitter. I've been using it since 2009.
Yeah, that's
good. But until you brought it to my attention, I didn't really study the financial predicament.
We're getting Googled by this van like crazy.
Googled?
Googled.
Oh, Googled.
Outside of Twitter. That is sketch. Let's move on.
All right. So, but just to talk about Twitter a little bit, this is, what the hell is that?
This is garbage.
Just garbage adjacent?
Oh, it's a banana peel. Super desiccated banana peel.
There you go.
That's pretty safe.
Right in front of Twitter. That makes sense.
Maybe Jack Dorsey will walk outside. The building only got a B, Charles.
That's right. Well, the stock's getting an F. And,
exactly.
You know, and hats off to the art department. I think the poster is perhaps in the top 10.
Wow, thank you. Not
to
interrupt you as I always do, but we have to address that for a second, because
Sure.
Charles, this is a very rare circumstance, and although I am loath to encourage unsolicited input and advice,
Right.
when somebody provides input and advice that exactly matches what you suggested, I feel extra compelled to do it. So thank you to Eric Gomez, but definitely Tweetster, definitely funnier than what I had originally. And that was your original suggestion, so thank you for that.
No, thank you for doing all the hard work on that. And here we are on Easter, and the world, for once, is doing a hard and deep dive into the merits and demerits of Twitter. And I was shocked, knowing as I do something of the world of investing, I was shocked to see what a pig the Twitter stock is. I mean, it's horrible.
From its IPO to today,
Well,
you mean?
yeah, it's additional details since we talked this morning. The IPO price, that is the price at which the underwriters purchased the stock from the company, was 26.
What does that indicate?
So you go and you go to me, I'm the underwriter, and you say, Charles, I want you to sell Crowdsource the truth to the public. And we do a study. In the old days, I'd have a team, maybe a couple of teams would do a study and come back and say, well, this is the market, these are the competitors, this is why people are going to evaluate the Crowdsource the Truth IPO versus this, versus that.
CNN Plus.
Well, that's a short.
$20 million.
That's a massive short, I think. But and you would develop metrics, and whether most of these companies don't really have earnings or didn't have earnings when they went public, so you've got to do it, minutes of use per user, all these
active users per day is what they like.
Whatever, you come up with all this revenue, the addressable market, how long it's going to take you to build up the revenue base, et cetera, et cetera. But bottom line, I say to you, I think that we're going to price this thing at 26, and we want to price it at a level where the original investors will be happy. So we want to price it under, the peak level, because the last thing you want to do is have it say it's going to be priced at 26. We buy it from you at 26, and the first trade is 12. That's a disaster. So, for a lot of reasons, you're not selling a very big piece of Crowdsource the Truth, and nor did the people who owned Twitter at the time sell a very big percentage of the company.
I see.
So they also had a vested interest in having it rocketed up. So they priced, I think from memory, it was 26. God, that's noisy.
Loud in there, right?
Right next, it's garbage adjacent,
It's everywhere.
All the best cafes are right next to a pile of garbage.
Yeah.
Go down, past the first pile of garbage.
Right, make a left.
Ask the second pile of garbage if they have any menus in there. Anyway, so the underwriters bought the stock at 26, and then they sell it to the public, and it closed that day, I want to say, at 44 and change.
Yes.
And that day was in 2013, that's a long time ago.
9 years, I think.
Well, in the investment world, that's a very long time. 9 years.
Right.
So to have the stock
And the technology world.
right, and especially in the technology, it's a very different company today than it was back then.
Right.
And yet, before Musk got back involved here, the stock was trading. It had been trading for a long time below the IPO price. Now, let's just talk about that for a second. Why that's a disaster. People who go into the highly developed venture world now, and that's a lot of the people coming out of these. Excuse my language. It's a technical term. These fucked up fake universities that punch out people with degrees and no common sense, or less common sense leave with less common sense than they entered. But
I know a lot of people in college who should be punched out.
and most of them are professors.
Exactly.
But, or as they say in that comic strip, professors. But anyway, when you go into that line of work, typically you get a salary, but your bonus is paid, not all, but maybe principally in
Stock options.
it could be founder shares, it could be, a markup to the founder shares, and you're hoping for that deal of a lifetime where you get founder shares that the price, let's say $25,000 is against your salary of 50, and you get lucky, and you don't have to go over there to Pippin Vintage Jewelry and get any jewelry because the place is
Hawk
out.
this stuff.
It's out. But that $25,000 worth of stock, you wake up one morning in an alternative universe and the company goes
Millionaire.
public and it's $25 million, or some big number.
They're all hoping.
So
for
and they're willing to take. You're willing.
Lower salary
Yeah,
to do
because
that?
for that potential. But if the company's already gone public, you
Right.
can give people options on the stock. You can do deals as happens at the big companies like Apple, where they say you're an employee, you have a right to roll a percentage of your bonus, which will be a substantial amount, into stock during the year or during the quarter or during some period at the lower of the lowest price, at the lowest price in that period. And the difference between what you pay and the value is you have to make taxes on that, it's income. But when you have a pig, which is what the Twitter stock
with
was,
lipstick on it.
with probably not dipstick on it, dipshit on it.
Crack juice rolling out the side of its
exactly.
mouth.
Hunter Biden's crack juice.
Yeah. This would be a new flavor of kombucha.
Right. Hunter Biden's ass crack special. But anyway, and you can have the bottle would be, of course, Al Gore Brown. But anyway, when you have a stock that's going down, it's very difficult to compensate the creative talent. And in the tech world, particularly in a company that's
Wow, it's really windy.
That's what I was telling you. Yeah, particularly that in a company like Twitter, which is not a new concept now. Hang
on a second here, Charles.
Sure. Yeah.
We got the rolling thunder right there.
ASA something or other, whatever that is. So you got a more mature tech company. I mean, Twitter is now 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
That's old. That's really old. So the IPO investors are not happy. The employees.
Why? I thought they're already out. They
No.
went up to 70 at one time.
Well, maybe they got out then. Maybe the long-term people. That's a nice car.
I8 convertible.
All right. Pulled a Jason on myself.
That's
Anyway,
fine.
so the long-term investors look at this, and you go back to 2013, and I don't remember precisely where the Dow was then, but
Downtown, wasn't it?
easy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, I want to say, was probably less than 20,000 back then. I maybe have that wrong, but I mean it was.
2013.
Yeah.
People can Google it.
They can look at it, and so if you just, woke up in the morning and took your pet chimpanzee out of its cage, gave it a banana, and told you trained your chimpanzee to just throw bananas at the wall, and you had an alphabet on your wall, and you just bought any stock that, you know.
Yeah, based on that.
Based on that,
just as good.
You do a lot better than Twitter. I mean, you know. And
Charles,
so
this is a fancy Japanese steakhouse.
still closed.
Well,
looks good.
probably just for being in the morning.
It looks good. I like Japanese food.
And
It's
this was
steakhouse.
an excellent Japanese chef Italian restaurant. Oh, it's still in business. This is a
Pasta
good place.
pasta. Good. Looks
Stupid
nice.
name, excellent restaurant.
Yeah. So Jason's restaurant.
That guy
reviews.
agreed
Is that right?
tacitly.
Is that right?
Yeah, kind of.
He didn't say no.
Smiled.
So that's a tacit agreement. Anyway,
So the
so
stock-
any old stock would have done better than Twitter. And
That's true.
you know, Twitter is, it's not like they've got no competitors. I mean, there are many
Right.
people trying to sell advertising, and I don't think the bubble has burst yet, as hard as it will burst when you start thinking, you say, you know, wait
What
a minute.
bubble?
The advertising bubble.
Oh,
I mean, people who sell the concept of advertising are like the people who say, like, don't worry about this building and the foundation and this and that. I just put a fresh coat of paint on it, you know.
Right.
And
where'd the building go, Charles?
you know, you got to look at the intrinsic merit of the product, or as they say in business land, the people who are not particularly well educated refer to products as products.
But you just said something very important. The intrinsic value. That's
Right.
exactly what Al-Walid said.
Well, he's a moron.
But you're talking about the financial stock fundamental intrinsic value,
Well,
not
the simplest way to talk about it would be to talk about Apple, not the company, but the fruit. Right?
Okay.
There are a lot of people who believe, of course, you've got to have apples that don't have the bad pesticides on them and all that kind of stuff, that there is some essential nutrient value.
it's food.
Well, it's people, an apple a day keeps the whatever away and that kind of
It's
stuff.
from the American Apple Association, probably.
Advertising bureau.
Yeah.
But the point is, for every product and service, there is some worth that you can ascribe to it that
Right.
is independent of whether you're hawking it like crazy with that Flex Seal guy, you know, on television, or My Pillow, Mike Lindell, you know, whatever advertising
Right.
program you have. And the other thing that is certainly true in my case, and that doesn't mean it's true in everyone's case, is that at a certain point in your life, your preferences start to get set in stone. You know, you're not going to convince me, for example, there is a difference between Coke and Pepsi that I can discern, and you're not going to convince me to buy Pepsi.
Differing degrees of shit.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, these are products.
No, I agree.
with
A lot of
huge
people feel that way.
Huge advertising budgets, right?
Yes.
And so so when I sold Wilson, it was owned by Pepsi. I was dealing with the CEO of Pepsi, and I was 28.
How did you like? Oh, what's the guy's name I'm thinking of who came to Apple? John
No,
Scully?
it was.
Was that his name?
No, it was not. It was after, way after.
But he was at one point the CEO of Pepsi.
Yeah, that was after. The guy I was dealing with was called Wayne Calloway, who's dead, and then Michael Jordan, who was also sadly dead.
Owned Pepsi? Michael Jordan?
He says, no, well, that's the funny thing. So we sell Wilson Sporting Goods for a big number. I mean, much more than Pepsi thought they were going to get. I was a hero. The company in the year before we sold it had lost a tremendous amount of money. So it was a tough sell to go and say, look, this thing that sucks over here on the financial statements, that's history. We don't care about history. We care about the future.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the Joe Biden
It's like the
approach.
Joe Biden sales pitch. Look at how much stuff is out of business on Fifth
These are
Avenue,
not
Charles.
out of business, Jason. These are, they've listened to AOC, and they're just lowering their carbon footprints
Right.
by ceasing to engage in any kind of business. They're not out of business.
Right. But it's almost
They've
everything.
renounced business, Jason. They've renounced it. Look across the street as well. Now, how can you say that's a superior opportunity to this one over here, which is Prime? Which is better, Prime or Superior?
I don't know.
And both are garbage adjacent.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So, just briefly on this Michael Jordan thing.
Wilson,
So,
yeah.
I sell it for a big number. Our team sells it for a big number. And we had a celebratory dinner at one of these really fancy restaurants, not Lutece, but it was something like Lutece up in Westchester, because Pepsi's based in Harrison, or was.
Oh.
And I'm seated next to the CEO, and we give out big, nice. It was in the era when you could give a CEO a $2,000 gift and it wasn't a problem.
Uh-huh.
And so we were handing out, Tiffany this and Mont Blanc that and all these other things. And then having, speeches ensued, hilarity ensued, and all this kind of stuff. But at the beginning, I hadn't really spent time with that much quality time with the CEO. So we were talking, and I said, Mr. Jordan, I've just got to ask you one question here. He said, please call me Mike.
But it's not the basketball, Michael.
Well, just let me tell. I said. He said, please call me Mike. I said, all right, Mike. I got a simple question for you. How in the world do you find time to run PepsiCo and play for the Chicago Bulls at the same time? And he was a tall white guy.
Not the same guy.
The same guy.
Okay.
But he thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
He was, it's a happy occasion when you sell something for a lot more than you thought it was worth.
Right. Well, but that doesn't seem to be what's about to happen with Twitter.
Right, so staying on the advertising theme, you got Google saying, and Google and Facebook dominate today.
Social media?
Not just social media, the ad spending. If you add up ad spending across all categories, I
don't think Twitter touches it. I never see ads on Twitter.
Right. And I wouldn't even, it's not like I'd be sitting there and saying, I'm looking at my Twitter feed, I'm looking to see the stories. I do take them seriously. Actually, I get a lot of very good suggestions from my followers, and I interact with them, or I try to. It's very useful to me.
Yeah.
But so is breathing air, and I'm not paying for that.
Right.
So I think you have to be asking yourself some very tough questions if you were on the Twitter. If you were an independent director on the Twitter board. By the way, the people on the Twitter board don't seem to own any stock.
Isn't that a huge problem?
I think it is a pretty big problem.
Musk is exposing all of this.
Yeah, and there was, the internet bubble of 1998 to 2000, there were various and sundry articles that exposed the fact that in many, many cases, the commissions earned by the underwriters selling the stock in the IPO were greater than the revenues.
So they're ripping everybody off
greater
with
than the
IPO.
revenues of the company. Forget about profit.
Wow.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're hyping the shit out of a concept, and you've got the great unwashed audience. It happens all the time. Well, but this is a serious COVID. This is a double-decker.
I've seen this around before.
Hemi, demi, semi-quaver, supercharged COVID testing site.
He's in there waiting to test somebody. Are you about to get tested?
I just got tested.
You going to ask them what they're going to do with your DNA?
No.
You better.
You don't care?
No, not really.
Okay, cool.
Good.
When the bioweapon arrives, she can laugh at us.
That's right.
Look, everybody's dying to check out Harry Potter.
There's a lot more people interested in pure fantasy than going into the COVID test. Anyway.
I didn't realize there was a difference.
Careful. So, is that hair real? It's Ukraine hair, blue and gold. Not a Chinese person.
It's a whole thing
Or
going
an Asian
on.
person. So, have you noticed this place was hilarious. You don't like this place.
Well, I
loved
liked it fine until I got French fries with a pubic hair in it.
That's a downer. I'll give you
Cooked through the fry.
Ugh.
It was like defying.
How do you do that?
That's what I mean. It was like a magic trick.
I shudder to think it was in the special sauce.
You should see how they make the donuts.
I don't want. I think we don't need to know that. This is now. It's just 11.
Exactly.
No more 7.
7 light.
George Costanza is really upset, taking the 7 out of 7-Eleven.
Now let me just take a non sequitur here for a minute, Charles, because yesterday in that little whatever walking area was a giant Extinction Rebellion protest.
We'll come back
let's
to,
finish this and
let's
we'll
let's
talk
stay
about
on
them.
Twitter and because there's a lot to talk about there, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, you're sitting there as a board member trying to figure out what to do, and just note to the board, I hope they haven't done this already, the first thing you do is you don't hire McKinsey. to give.
Didn't they do that?
I don't know. I hope they didn't.
Initially.
If you did hire McKinsey, hear them out, pay their bill, and do exactly the opposite of what
Yeah,
they
that's a
say.
good
You'll
idea,
be
actually.
good. But so you should have a real team look at this, and you would look at this from
Wow. Did you see that?
That's baller. Probably got a gun, Jason, so we'll leave him alone.
I'm not doing anything to him.
But that's not only am I not going to stay in my lane.
No, he almost ran people over.
Right. So what you would be looking at is you'd say, all right, of the unicorns, and Twitter, despite its abysmal performance since IPO, is technically a unicorn, or was close to being a unicorn.
What does that mean, unicorn?
I think I forget the exact cutoff, but it's the idea is that you want an investment. It started out you wanted a venture capital investment that would have at IPO a minimum value, and it was outlandish back in the day to talk about $1 billion, and then when that no longer became outlandish, it went up to 10 billion or whatever.
Wow.
So you're talking about initially Twitter went for quite a few years before going public.
Profitable.
Well,
Right, that too.
It went public and it wasn't profitable, I think.
It
So-
wasn't profitable until after 2018.
Right. So and so they're all. I started to talk about in any bubble period, you sit there and you're patient, and this is an unusual period we're in now. Since December 31st, 2008 to the present, interest rates have been very, very low, lower than inflation for a long, long time. So if you're sitting there and you're trying to save for retirement, what do? I mean, you don't keep your money in a Apple Bank CD getting 0.2% or something like that. And
Oh, here come these guys.
oh yeah,
That's a girl. A woman, excuse me.
Are you a biology expert?
You're right, I can't tell.
Aan de zijkant zie je dat. Zie je dat?
Wow, right in
Idiots.
front of the taxi.
Complete idiots. Why don't you go get a COVID test?
Against the light.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the sport here.
Okay, so wait a minute. So, you're trying to retire.
Yeah, and so you need to put money aside, and inevitably, for one reason or another, you're killing yourself buying bonds at these low interest rates. So you're driven to buy equities, and you say, oh, I want to buy IBM, or I want to buy General Electric, I want to buy a company that will be
Established.
around for a while, whatever. So you buy a bunch of that stuff, and then you're not doing all that well. And then your next door neighbor who started out living in a trailer and has now torn the trailer down and bought 10 lots around you out of his profits on Netflix and Tesla and all this other stuff. So, well, you used to be really rich, and I used to be living in a trailer, and look at what I'm doing. Why aren't you buying some Tesla? I'm not going to
Creates
buy
that
it.
kind of rush.
And you end up against your better instincts. You say, I'm going to now do this because this schmuck over here used to live in a trailer, and I'm about to have to tear my house down and move into his old trailer or half of his old
Right.
trailer. So the madness of crowds gets you to the place where people are buying Twitter today. And I mean, I have had the fortune in my business career to run into and advise high-tech companies, or companies of all types, who are really shrewd business people. We're run by shrewd business people. Whatever that frog is, what's his name? Parag Agrawal?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever his name is. He is an arrogant idiot. I don't
agree.
care
I
if he's
don't like
got
that guy at all.
150 PhDs. I mean, the guy's a moron.
Does he
when it
have a
comes to this.
PhD
I
in
don't
something?
care. You could take a circus clown and put him in charge of the place and it would have done better.
What
And
he said was just grounds
outrageous.
for arrest.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're also entitled to be ridiculed for it. And that
Grounds for being fired.
Right, and so if Twitter is indeed a mixture of a subscription service where you want to get paying subscribers and an advertising service, and maybe it's something else entirely, it's the one thing they have done is they burned a lot of money developing a brand name. It's kind of a Xerox style
Yes.
brand name, and that notionally has value. It doesn't have real value until you start getting paid for your name.
Isn't it also possible for a brand to turn toxic if
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, I don't. Who's the leading manufacturer of TNT? You know, or
I don't know.
right, or you know, take this once proud brand name, Riccardo Maggiore.
Was it?
No.
Yeah. No, but I mean, if you become associated with a scandal or something,
Right.
a brand it could turn negative.
Right. Exactly. So you'd get a real bunch of eggheads together, and you'd say, all right, what's the real business model for Twitter? Because the one that we have now, you
Not working.
could probably take that museum of sex and take that global and make a shit ton more money with that than you would with where we are right now with Twitter, and particularly being the site that is famous for interfering in elections.
Yes. Oh,
Well, it is.
but don't. Okay.
Oh, come on, they spiked the Hunter Biden story, period. They
Yes.
single-handedly did that, right? That's the spiking. There are poll results out now that say that had Biden voters known about the Hunter Biden story, it would,
I know, but YouTube hates it, so if we get deleted by the end of this video, become a sponsor and subscribestar.com.
Please do that anyway.
The truth.
do that
Or
anyway.
patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. But I hear what you're saying.
So if you had a real team look at this and say, all right, your history is fascinating, that's great, wonderful. Let's address a few key issues. Why are we allowing anonymous Twitter users?
And he got upset when Ted Cruz suggested
right.
you can't do that.
You know, why are you doing that? Anonymous people don't necessarily have, I think you could argue that anonymous people don't have First Amendment protection.
I have argued that, but people disagree. What Jack Dorsey said to Congress was that they need pseudonymity, is what he
come
referred
on.
to it as, because journalists in countries where they don't have freedom of the press could be persecuted. But when they know your name in the United States, they would just persecute you right away.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're an American,
Right.
I mean, people in Bangladesh don't have First Amendment protections in Bangladesh necessarily. You have to come here, and if you're here, you should use your real name. And that argument, Jack Dorsey goes away. And by the way, Jack, get a fucking shave. You can afford it. Get a lousy looking beard. And go buy some decent clothes.
He's microdosing LSD.
Is he really?
Well, he had some article about that.
What the hell?
What,
Now, this is actually garbage. This isn't adjacent. This is garbage.
this is like a game show now.
This
These women just ran the gauntlet of carpet.
We're about to do that.
They're visiting from out of town, and they seem
It's
to
nice.
be wondering,
Let's
like,
hope there's not a
what's
person
up with
in
New
here.
York? Oh yeah, is there?
Well,
somebody
I
under
think
there.
was there. No, I don't think there's anybody in there.
Someone's in there?
We didn't hear anything.
Yeah, the person is. If there's somebody in there, I mean, there could be a baby in there.
Oh my God,
But
Charles.
I mean, there could be. Could be anything on the
anything in
streets.
there.
But you know, there's the clown car that probably
Wait a minute. This is new bikes, isn't it?
that the CEO, yeah, the CEO of Twitter, probably that's his company car
Fast
right there,
Track.
Fast Track Movers. But so you would look at this, and if you're really going to provide the service either for free or for a small monthly subscription to avoid annoying ads or whatever it is, then you really do want to appeal to the entire political spectrum. You don't just want to, you know, these
From an investor standpoint.
From an
you mean.
investor standpoint, yeah. If you want to, in fact, what you really want to do is you want to turn Twitter into the World Wrestling Federation of political and other contests.
That's what it was.
But you're not anymore. I mean, you're only allowing people who are
Agreeing with
self-selected and
right.
to all virtue signal together and spend a lot of time harshing on Trump. I mean, think about it. How could the board have said, you know, it's okay for our management team to kick the sitting president of the United States off of
hated
our
that.
service because we're so tolerant. I mean, you control the platform. You know, they now, I don't know if you get this, but now if they don't like something that you're circulating, they'll put a warning label on it.
Before you tweet it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, right. That they've been doing for a long time. Now they even say, like, oh, Are you sure you want to tell this person they're a moron? It's not that nice.
They really say that?
Yeah, something like
Well,
that.
they have
Like
to do
they
something
say
about
like
Joe.
keep in mind the rules or whatever. Listen, freedom of speech doesn't require you to be friendly. You're allowed to be a dick
Right,
if that's what you want.
right. That's young people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I think that you should be able to say whatever you want as
Right.
long as it's not against the law.
Right,
And there's another argument that people like to make, Charles, which is that, well, Twitter's a private company, they can do whatever they want.
it's publicly traded.
It's publicly traded, yes, but it also has built itself up
Right.
on a promise to users that this is, user-generated content.
Well,
so
and-
we're relying on you to make this what it is today, and then when we reach a position of power, we're just going to throw you out retroactively for things you said before.
Right. Well, I think with all these subscription services, we've talked about this before, one potential improvement would be to say to any subscription service, where you're getting a free Gmail or whatever it is,
Yeah.
this is how we make money off you. If you understand this and you're happy that we're making money off the time you spend
Right.
sending email messages, and
doing it.
it could be a substantial amount of cash per year, and it's also contributing to an increase in the value of our stock. If you know all this and subscribe, that's good.
That's fair.
If you don't know all this, or worse in the case of Facebook, when Zuckerberg said in the beginning, we're not going to monetize your information.
And then change it.
And that's all. Oh, this is nice. Is this guy peeing on the street here?
It might be buzzing in. There's a buzzer there.
Yeah. Somehow I don't.
Might have been lighting a crack pipe.
That's more
Uh-oh.
likely.
What is
Speaking
this
of
thing?
crack pipes. Yeah, here's a guy picking up a cigarette, but I don't think we're talking about
What is this?
cannabis dispensary.
Oh wow, this is the new thing, is the roll-up cannabis dispensary.
Got edibles, vaporizers. Don't be shy. Come get high. Indica, sativa, sour,
Are you painting
flower.
this stuff also?
This is ours, yeah.
That's your art? Looks good. It's actually, I'm not joking, it's better than Hunter Biden.
Well, I didn't do it personally, but this is of the business.
So you guys are competing with Weed World?
Yeah, indica, sativa, sour, flower, buds.
All right, thanks, man.
And Hunter Biden's a big customer, right?
Charles, the illicit weed business,
It's
what
like
is that? Bronson Strategic?
Brosnan,
What is that?
some private security thing.
Strategic Response Team.
You got to put the word strategic in. You put strategic in. I'm going to be a strategic failure. Oh, that sounds very impressive.
There's a strategic weed sales
Right.
van there, but they're exploding, these portable cannabis dispensaries. They're everywhere.
I would use the explode word carefully.
Right.
So anyway, on Twitter, I think there's a very tough call to make that the board has to make about why exactly they're going to turn down a proposal, or not even discuss a proposal for Musk. Now, one grounds to do it would be if you could get a credible independent group to validate management's projections, and they did a reasonable 3, 5, 10-year projection, and you get people who are good with numbers to tell you, on a bunch of different scenarios, how much the company would be worth today in present value terms, and you can demonstrate that these achievable plans, which are in progress, are going to yield substantial results. You can turn down an offer if you've got that work done. But if you're sitting around and saying, well, we don't like him, we don't like the fact he's a libertarian, we don't like the fact he's the richest guy in the world. By the way, one of the investors the original venture investor in Twitter is none other than Jeff Bezos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Bezos he's got a venture fund called, I forget the name of it, but at least that's what I read. So,
Well, along those lines of what you're saying, Charles, I have an interesting message I'd like to read to you
sure.
that I did not tell you
Okay.
I was going to bring. This is an article that I saw in Washington Times saying
Right.
Twitter resists takeover to avoid becoming Musk social.
Right.
And it's got commentary from former Twitter, whatever he was, Mr. Adam Sharp, where he is saying that Musk right now is trying to pry open the gates of the public town square, and it very well might need to be pried open. Twitter's former head of news, government, and elections said, but what happens after he opens the town square? Then he doesn't have to listen to anyone, and he can stand in the middle and do what he wants. That's the risk with any single wealthy owner, said Sharp, Twitter's first Washington, D.C. employee, who helped grow the platform into a political media powerhouse. Sharp added that if the goal for Twitter is to be a democratic exchange of ideas online, then this is more likely to happen as a publicly traded company that shapes the market. Is what he said. Who is that guy?
Oh, the mushrooms.
The mushroom heads? Yeah, sorry about that. But what do you think about Adam Sharp's commentary there?
Well, I
maybe
think
they're selling mushrooms. Or
could
maybe
be.
they know
Or
the
maybe they
stupid
bought
Mario
some.
brothers.
So, should we keep walking or?
Let's keep walking, but what do you think of that commentary?
It depends the basis upon which he takes control of this thing. If he turns it into a truly private company, which he may or may not do.
Biggie Smalls, Charles, monetizing the video.
I knew that. Huge Biggie fan. Not.
You and Kamala Harris were
Right.
going to college in 1980 before that came out and listening to it.
Yeah, I made up for lost time hanging around with Jam Master Jay briefly. But anyway, I think what they would be wise to do, consider doing, rather than a cash tender offer, is an exchange offer.
These guys following me with the damn monetizing music, they're pissing me off.
Let's just go over here.
He's not supposed to be broadcasting music.
Yeah.
The mug.
So the thing is already public, and you could do, which is good, and the shareholders who own the stock are probably not very happy. So if you juice the thing up in a public format, you could see quite a substantial appreciation in the shares in the near term. And that's
Wait. I want to focus you on Adam Sharp's comments for a second. Not for any reason other than they're in the news.
Right.
He said that. What do you think about this idea? He's trying to position it as Elon Musk taking it private to make it his own little
not
thing. But
so
meanwhile, even with its public, Parag Agrawal, he's the one sitting in the middle of it, telling everybody what they can say. At least now we'll have, and Agrawal's probably a 900 millionaire. I'd rather have somebody who's super rich saying we want freedom of speech than someone who's super rich saying we don't want freedom of speech.
Well, I actually think there shouldn't be a curation of what's on there. I mean, I think very obnoxious, death threats and things like that should be referred, but there really shouldn't be teams of people in funny clothes and purple hair sitting around a San Francisco Bay Area locality, and of course not showing up at work, with no expertise at all, like an AOC, deciding that they're smarter than every person on the planet thinking about the issue, the dangers posed, if any, by climate change. I mean, you can't, there are not enough people, there's not a company or a collection of souls big enough to do a good job of rating and culling all the commentary that would go through a well-functioning platform that had not however many 100 million users they have, but billions of users operating in real time around the world in 200 countries. I mean, what you want to do is have a mechanism to decide what the limits are that you will allow to have happen. For example, on Twitter, you can check for yourself, there's all kinds of porn on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
And
people have alleged that there's even child porn.
right.
Well, here's another example of the moderation. A while ago, some people in the group of social engineers that are persistently trying to destroy Crowdsource the Truth, my personal reputation and life for the past 5 years, posted my parents' personal phone number and
outrageous.
instructed people to call them and tell them that I was this brand of criminal, that they had branded me without evidence. And I reported it to Twitter and they said, nah, that's fine.
Right.
Not going to do anything. But yet, if I tell some idiot that they're an idiot,
Right.
which is my opinion, they say, oh, you're kicked off Twitter
Right.
for, hate speech
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But it's my right to hate somebody. If they don't like it, block me.
Right. So my understanding, though, getting back to Adam Sharp, my understanding of one of the virtues of Twitter that I see in my own usage of it is that you can get to pretty famous people easily. And if you become
interesting,
well, if you focus on something, like I focus on GE, and people understand that if you want to have shrewd investors understand that if you want to make a significant investment one way or the other on GE, you'd be wise to try to talk to me, or at least, consider my past work, and then ask yourself whether GE is better off today than it was when I said get the hell away from it. And I think it's not better off today. So anyway, similarly on the Clinton Foundation, because of all the work we've done together and some of the work I've done independently, I have a point of view on it based on facts, and I'm prepared to back it up with evidence.
They hate facts and evidence.
Right. So if you eliminated the anonymity, which I think is a good thing to do, or arrange for there to be special conditions for anonymity or something, and if you encouraged real debates, is that today we're going to have not an Ask Me Anything, we're going to have a World Wrestling match on the subject of, for example, abortion. People are passionate about you got to have abortion rights. Other people are passionate about this murder. I mean, let's have a real debate about it. Let the fur fly, as it were, on Twitter.
Yeah.
And then let's get a sense of the people engaged in that debate. If you had to vote on it, do a real vote of 1 billion people and see what the vote comes back, and see if the passionate what do they call it?
Pro-life.
Partial birth abortion supporters, and you should be allowed to get rid of
Michelle
a baby
Obama.
After it's born.
Yeah.
Because that's not bad.
Well, if we could do that up to the age 79,
easy.
I might vote for it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Joe Biden, we're going to give a partial birth.
I think he's doing it to himself.
Yeah.
So this is really sad here. This Lord and Taylor, I think you mentioned at some point you had a connection to this place, but this was a classic New York store.
Absolutely.
And it was, I didn't particularly like it, but the old ladies liked it.
For women, right.
And it had a perfume, handbags, jewelry, and at Christmas time the windows were really fantastic. And now look at it.
It's
On
totally
the
out.
one hand, Amazon is flying high. On the other hand, how many Lord and Taylor shops like it around the world are out? And but anyway, so back on Twitter. As a guess, because the board moved so quickly to say no, that the board is in the pocket of Agrawal and the CEO.
Oh.
And
You sure it's him? He's not in the pocket of somebody else?
Well, I'm not sure. But I mean, in my experience, when companies have flat to declining stock prices and everybody in the competition is up tenfold, the CEO becomes known as the former CEO.
Yeah.
And
Is that maybe why Jack left?
I don't know. It wasn't an upgrade for Agrawal to put Agrawal in there. But
It was an upgrade for Agrawal. It wasn't an upgrade for Twitter.
For the Twitter
Although
shareholders.
it's more of a side grade, Charles. They're both losers.
Yeah. And so, just because a lot of people are using it, a lot of people use heroin. It's not a particularly smart thing to do.
Doesn't make it good, right?
And a lot of people make money off the use of it.
Good point.
But it's not a great business.
Well, just one final comment on the Washington
Sure.
Examiner article. As people read that article, they need to keep in mind that the public figure, Adam Sharp, 944, Charles.
Nice.
Nah, that's a piece of crap. I hate four-cylinder Porsches. Although they did make the highest output four-cylinder engine the last year that thing was around. Point is, Adam Sharp is extremely adept, in my opinion, based on information I've seen in the public domain, at lying. And I think that's what he's doing in that Washington Examiner article. I believe it's going to come out very soon that Adam Sharp was critical in creating the essence of what Twitter is, which is a tool to manipulate and control politics on a world stage. And as I have been researching him in defense of myself, my company, etc., He's made a lot of comments over the history of the life of Twitter that caused me to believe these things. So we'll see what happens, but I think Twitter's in a lot of trouble.
I think so. The current management, I think, is in a lot of
Yes.
trouble.
Now, what do you think happens? So people are now saying, will Elon Musk own Twitter? I think he already owns it, irrespective of what happens with the stock.
He's living rent-free in their head, that's for sure.
What's
But-
his plan B if you were to speculate based on
Well,
what we know?
What people try to do in situations like this is, and it's not so easy to do this, somebody has put up the cash to get 9% of the company. I haven't looked at the
I thought it
file.
was him, personally.
Again, I haven't looked to see what pocket he used. Did he use his personal pocket? Did he use an investment fund? Did he controls? How did he do it? But if it were personal money, he takes it out of his checking account and he, tells
It's
his
a hell of a
broker.
withdrawal.
Well, maybe not from his checking account.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's cleaning out the change in his couch.
what he might do, or what
What's
people,
going on here? It sounds like a
it's,
thunderstorm. There we go. I don't think that type of motorcycle is legal in the city.
that's Joe Biden's smarter brother. But anyway,
Which
what
account?
what you might try to do, and advisors around him might try to get him to do, say, what we're going to do here is we're going to put a deal together to make a public tender offer for control of Twitter, where we're going to give shareholders an option to take all cash, or an option to take a mixture of cash and a continuing interest in a revitalized Twitter.
He has mentioned something about that.
Right. And if you were to do that type of a deal, he's put up the first 9%. I don't know how much leverage debt you could put on a company like Twitter in today's market. I just simply don't know. But he could make the case.
It's a
That-
noisy day.
It's Easter. That he would perhaps take time away from Tesla and the other companies and devote his time to re-energizing Twitter. You have to say how much time he'd be spending on that versus his other interests. And he put a team together. Maybe he's already hired folks to think through how you would run this better and what the milestones are. And you have to put all these things in your tender document or exchange offer document, depending how you structure it. And you basically say, look, the current management sucks. That's why they turned down the offer. That's why they've driven this company to the ground. And I'm a proven, the team, that obviously lawyers would write it, so it wouldn't be this positive, but I'm a proven moneymaker. I've revolutionized a number of industries already. This is a relatively trivial exercise in that the company exists. There is a workforce.
He's not inventing some unknown technology.
Right, exactly. And you could then, let's just let these people right on there.
They were getting ready to make a face if you were to stop for some completely valid reason.
Right. Now we get.
So he's not
This is-
inventing anything new.
We're now in the watch and handbag district of Fifth
Yeah.
Avenue, where and greeting cards.
It's mostly stolen goods.
These are, I think, they're like $10 each. These things.
Huh.
Asking.
Baby Yoda.
Asking. They're not very good in the selling department, but they are very good in the asking. Yeah.
So he's not inventing something new.
So he would then, the team around him would say, all right, Musk will do this, but he wants to put up only, let's say, the 9% that he's got in, and he wants, as he gets, I think, in some of the other companies, he wants bonuses based on how well he does that are.
That's pretty good.
And I could see him trying to do something like that. And in this environment, I could see him actually trying to get such a deal done. We have to remember that to the extent there are funds still in this, there are people with Easter Bunny ears.
Oh yeah, right.
Where are your Easter Bunny ears?
I
Anyway,
forgot them. I left them at the Seder.
You have obligations. If you're managing a fund, you can't just say, I'm in the business of deciding whether I like or dislike the politics of a manager or a person.
Right.
You're in the business of fulfilling the charter of your fund, whatever that charter might be. And you're going to get sued
Right. Well, a lot of people are
And you're
talking
gonna-
about a lot of different lawsuits about this.
Right. So,
Saying Elon Musk is going to get sued for something.
well, I mean, in that every significant deal that I was involved in as an advisor,
Somebody got sued?
people get sued. That's just what there's an industry of lawyers
Yeah.
that will sue.
Anybody with money.
Well, no, they sue deals that are in progress in the hopes that to resolve the suit by the date you want to close the deal,
They
you
have
just
to
pay
settle.
them or you throw them a bone. You'll settle. And
Lawyers
it's
are
disgusting.
scumbags.
Many are, yeah. So, anyway, that seems to be the direction he's probably going to go down, and just the underperformance, the fact that there are not that many users, the fact that they're anonymous users. As
He
they
said
get,
half are fake.
and further, one thing that I think is probably the case is that the advertising revenue number is fanciful.
Also fake.
Yeah, that
I agree.
they are inflating. One of the reasons they may want anonymous users is they can
Yes.
use these supposed anonymous users' minutes of activity as arguments to charge you a higher fee.
I
on
agree
advertising.
completely.
Yeah. So here we are. We're all the way making good progress. We're up 45th Street. Haven't passed that many churches yet, or churchgoers.
Well, isn't
We're getting to St. Patrick's
Yeah.
momentarily. We have to get past the 25 handbag purveyors. Yeah, there's no
It
Brooks Brothers
really-
anymore, but we got plenty of people on blankets selling fake crap.
it's really just the retail death of Manhattan.
Well, they still have
And
more
the tax
thugs
base.
coming down here and stealing this stuff. Maybe they have enough common sense to know it's all fake anyway. You know, maybe it was stolen to begin with.
Right. You get
could
a
have-
Kangol now.
Yeah. Pretty soon they're going to have, this merchandise has been laid out this way by our blanket assembly person, or blanket design.
Vice President of
Storefronts.
Blanket Equity. Somebody must be giving out these bunny ears or selling
I'm
them.
sure you see there's being sold.
Wow, all those guys had Leicas. Did you see that?
Leicas, really? I didn't notice. It's not my wheelhouse. Here we go. I was going to say this is garbage, but evidently not. It's not garbage yet.
I mean, if you were paying, even if you're not selling the same stuff, don't you not want some illegal vendor right outside your
I would
store that
think.
you pay for?
I'd be kind of forceful. With my shop, I'd be throwing these people out.
That's what I mean, except you probably can't get the cops to do
I
anything.
wouldn't be waiting for the cops. I'd
That
get a
doesn't
private
involve
security.
texting.
So you can continue to try to sell this merchandise right here. We're going to do, every time you're here, we're going to do a barbecue
On you.
on your stuff. Thanks for providing the kindling.
Gonna do a barbecue.
Not
Yeah,
of the
then the
person,
cops
but
would come over and shut down the barbecue.
Well, okay, then mission accomplished. I'll stop barbecuing. Now get
Because
these guys
barbecues, Charles, introduce,
they
carbon, yeah.
contribute to global warming.
yeah.
So, as to the political role that Twitter plays, I think it's not just. I've noticed in Google, for example, that stuff I searched on in the past to try to get information I know I have, because I have thousands of pages typed out, I'll put in the search term and nothing comes back, but I know I had it at one point. So
Right.
Google has the ability to shape the first impression that you get when you consider a question.
Well, and then take away the evidence. We were looking for that picture of Stephen Paddock
Right.
when the police found him shot dead on the floor in Las Vegas, and you used to be able to just put it in and get the image on Google. I was searching, luckily I had it backed up on my laptop, and a bunch of people who were watching the show.
Send it to you?
Yeah, but Google is trying to get rid of it because it reveals anomalies that they don't want you to contemplate, I believe.
Right. And so with Twitter, honestly, when I started, I had just a few followers, and I checked. I was up at one point to 40,000 or stuff. I'm down
Yeah,
to
they
like
took 'em
31.
away.
They took a whole bunch. I can't seem to get much past 30, 31. But that's a lot. I mean,
30,000 people listening
Yeah.
to your commentary.
yeah, and now many people, and thank you for this, will circulate or make additional suggestions. Some come with new ideas for me to think about. But in a political campaign, an adept Twitter user, I think, can in fact help shape opinion. I mean, the team that got together, for example, and in a unified fashion debunked, in theory, the Miranda Devine Hunter Biden laptop story. I mean, that ought to be a risk factor section in the disclosures of Twitter. That,
What do you mean?
That we have so much power that we can kill a legitimate story.
How is it a risk factor?
Because you're going to get sued eventually for it.
Ah.
You know that you.
Who will sue? Who
has,
Trump could sue them.
So maybe, yeah. I mean,
why doesn't he do that? No, because CDA 230. No, you can't sue them.
well, I'm just saying maybe for technical reasons you can't. But the point is, it's a risk factor to the business, and you could change CDA 230. And
What he could have done as the president, I think, is he could have said, because you've done this, not to Donald Trump, but to the president of the United States.
Right.
You're now an enemy of the United States, and we're going to take your assets and stuff like that.
Kind of like the way they're doing with the oligarchs.
Well, exactly, and that
Which
gets
is-
around CDA 230
Right.
because it's now a military issue where you're attacking the president of the United States, and we don't care what the law says. We're taking everything
Well,
and putting Jack in jail.
And so when you look at the media, including social media, and you think about the limited number of people today in this much more complicated world with many, many different ways of communicating very quickly, it's a very limited set of people that can kill the Hunter Biden story.
Right.
I mean, the group that got together, the 51 idiots who said that it was Russian disinformation,
Yeah.
Michael Sussman, all these other people, Perkins Coie, Hillary Clinton, Jake Sullivan, a small band of
Clapper.
people, the people who were on the internet journalists, you know about that? It's,
But none of those
400
people have the reach to hit millions of people without something like Twitter.
Well, but you see, what you want is both. You want the editorial people deciding what gets covered on the Sunday shows and what gets in the main paper on the front page, and you want the Twitterverse talking about the decisions that group made to feature something or to say that something else shouldn't be in the paper. You have those 1-2 punch. And we just saw it when we were off air. You were talking to somebody who didn't want to believe that the Biden family was.
Well, let's describe this woman.
Okay.
Because she was a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker. That woman, I could tell,
She was a Seinfeld character.
lived exactly her whole entire life in New York. You and I were looking at a pile of garbage, and this little 76-year-old woman stopped, white lady, to just join the commentary about how terrible it was that all this garbage was everywhere. And then she asked us,
Right.
why are they allowing this to happen? And I said, it's because they want the city to be destroyed. Joe Biden. And she said, why would they want that? And I said, because Joe Biden is getting money from China so that Chinese people can come buy everything when everybody leaves. And even though she said she's moving out of New York to go to New Jersey and live with her daughter, she said she doesn't believe me with regard to
Right.
Joe Biden.
Yeah. Well,
Weird, right?
No, because I mean, if you're the normal person who is not really, a normal American is not particularly interested in politics, right? They're interested in football and baseball and cookouts.
What's happening with the daughter in New Jersey?
And what's happening with their kids and their grandchildren, and but they're.
Donuts, prendiamo il donut.
Jesus.
What did that lady say?
I don't know, but it was. Look, there's a nice Easter floral thing.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
front.
Is there a parade or anything?
I don't know.
That's weird that there's no Easter parade.
There generally is. I just don't know when and where.
Well, people
So-
will enjoy seeing St. Patrick's Cathedral on
Yeah.
Easter Sunday.
It really, on most churches with active congregations, really go to great lengths to make the celebration of Easter a special event.
We should maybe go down by Grace Church.
We could. We will. Yeah, that's St. Patrick's is, of course, a Catholic church.
Hey, somebody's up there dancing. Can you see that person?
Yeah. It's interesting that the church is closed.
Wouldn't they be having,
Is that Kamala Harris?
I don't know, it looks like
Or was it
the
Hillary Clinton?
character from Frozen or something.
Yeah.
Why didn't they ask?
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
So, where were we?
Well, we were talking about Twitter.
Oh, yeah. And so, in the ability to shape opinion. So, if you
Right.
when to get into, to be referred to as an expert in a as a source, let's say, to be quoted publicly in the Wall Street Journal or the
Right.
New York, if it's business, or the New York Times, or
Tech stuff.
to be on, in an article where they refer to you as famed investor, blah 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 blah, in The Economist. That's one of the leading analysts in the world. That's people will look at that and they'll instantly believe it because they'll say, well, the Sunday Times of London said Ortel's one of the best
Right.
analysts in the world. They must have done some diligence. I don't know. Who am I to question the Sunday Times of London?
Exactly.
So that's fine if the editors and the others are going to do their homework. Garbage adjacent, right next to the.
Wow. Yeah.
But what's happened, and I actually experienced this with GE. I'm sort of blocking the.
I'm just enjoying the ringing of the thing while the.
Yeah. So when I made the rounds, literally around the world, in many countries, journalists everywhere, explaining my thinking on GE, almost to a person, these leading lights, very famous people, would say, please go, and they weren't doing this to be patronizing. They just say, listen, I'm really bad with math, and I don't understand finance very well. I'm like, that makes you the perfect person to write a story about
The journalists.
an incredibly complex financial problem, right? But some would say, well, they're just trying to make sure that you synthesize what you're
Explain it
saying
carefully.
and do it in sound bites that the general public will understand. No, it was because they didn't understand.
Yeah.
I would take them through some of the math quickly, and it's not like my father's multivariate calculus and stuff like that. We're talking about just adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and present value, which is deciding how much something in the future is worth today. It's not really complicated stuff. So,
Is that a take in?
so the people, I don't know. So the people in the mainstream media, in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere, there's some people who are very good, but most of them are not as good as the best investors thinking things through. And then you get to social media and you get to the periphery, blog sites and stuff like that. When you have 23 and 30-year-olds in Twitter,
Running the world.
Well, it's deciding that this person doesn't know what they're talking about when
Right.
it comes to this value, and this person does, and they don't even know how to balance their own checkbook. That's a very serious problem.
Right.
And so,
We see how a lot of these sort of fringe ideas have taken hold in the mainstream because a small collection of people who love fringe ideas
right.
have controlled this media resource that has grown to this outsized,
Right.
behemoth.
Well, and when we look at it, you introduced me to the phrase limited hangout. I hadn't focused on it, but that's where a problem's going to be exposed, but you don't want the whole problem. You just want to pick something that you can stomach. I'll lose my little finger, but I don't want to lose my left hand. Jesus.
I'm sorry we didn't have the camera facing around. That was like the modern day crackhead Zsa Zsa Gabor with a weird little dog.
But thinking that she's beautiful.
That was weird. I'm sorry everybody missed that.
Well, you missed the long-suffering boyfriend.
I saw
husband.
him. I saw him.
I can't believe I'm paying for
Both
this.
of them looked like they'd been through the ringer.
Well, yeah. I'd like to buy you one dress. Oh, thank you for buying me the whole store. I didn't say I did. Well, so you want to sleep in a different room, do you?
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, on Monday. But you had raised a point to me earlier that I don't know that we really covered adequately, is that the stock price, when it closed on Thursday or whatever, was basically within $1 of the IPO.
Right. Well, so in when I started,
It's bad, right?
Horrible. In 1980, there had been a prior period in the 70s where stocks traded by appointment. People had lost so much money, were so sick and tired of the bullshit. Nothing seemed to be working. Europe was basically embracing communism. It looked as if the Soviet Union might win. Carter, we had hostages in Tehran. I mean, the world was in a terrible state.
Worse
Biden's
than
trying
now?
to bring back those good old days.
Yes, exactly.
Building bunk better. But
No.
so back in those days, the deals were struck under the market price, under a theory that owning control of a company gave you more risk than just having a small amount of shares. So in exchange for taking that extra risk, you ought to get a lower price.
Does that make sense?
It did back then, because there was a lot of risk back then.
Right.
And now the theory is that if you want control, you have to pay a premium. Yeah, and it's like anything else. We got the light.
Oh, but that guy was racing.
I know. Yeah, I was trying to get a lawsuit proceeds there. Just get.
I don't know about
lanced.
that. That BMW, Charles, is going to be.
I kicked that BMW's ass.
But it reminds me of another aspect of electric vehicles that I've been considering. They're about to release the electric Humvee that weighs over 9,000 pounds.
That's big.
I don't know if that makes it the heaviest kind of consumer vehicle you can buy, but I don't know if people realize that.
It's a good car for Stacey Abrams.
Well, but force equals the mass, 1/2 the mass times the velocity squared. So a 9,000 pound electric Hummer hitting you at 50 miles an hour,
Hoyt.
it's going to be just so much more deadly force than a car that weighs a normal amount of weight.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors to these electric vehicles. But anyway, sorry, you were still telling us about
the
the 70s.
Well, no, back on this idea of a control premium. So you would take Twitter if you're a board member and say, all right, Ed Koch, how am I doing? The stock went public at an IPO price of 26
Not good.
in 2013. Where was the tech index on that day? Where's the tech index now? And where are the comparables trading now versus that period in 2013? And you're not handing out Fs in this case. I mean, F is a 65%. I mean, out of 100.
this is like a 40.
This is like a prepubescent teen. You're talking about 11. Out of 100.
Yeah.
And I remember when I met Prince Waleed, there was a company called Guinness Peak Aviation, which was a GPA, which was an aircraft leasing business. And in the boom, it's based out in Ireland. In the boom times, you'd be doing a jig, an Irish jig, in gratitude for getting a chance to own a piece of the equity. But aircraft leases and the airline business generally are businesses.
A lot of risk.
A tremendous amount of risk. So if you play it right and you buy at the bottom and sell at the top, you're doing really well. These idiots bought at the top, and there was a dramatic. Waleed had just rescued Citibank, but Citibank is in the toilet today. It's still a mess. It's trading at
I wonder about these claims of rescuing.
He
Is he
did
rescuing?
No, he did at the time. Absolutely.
But isn't he doing it to help himself?
Of course, but I mean, it was a very brave thing that he did. I mean, people were really worried that at the time that Citibank might in fact go under. It was so poorly managed, had been for so long. And then it got crosswise in the markets, had too much debt, and all kinds of problems. Anyway, I took this team on the subject of really bad managers. 7 of us went on the Concorde
Rubber Trump.
from New York to London, and then we flew first class down to Riyadh and went right into a series of meetings with Prince Waleed to the management team. In fact, there's a fake Trump.
That's what I'm saying.
And so they, the manager, this guy who insisted, like Joe Biden, on calling himself Dr. So-and-so, even though he was like a PhD in economics or something. And he was the guy who was the chief strategy officer of GPA. And he insisted he had a slide deck. And he said, I don't do slides. I don't like slides. Forget the slides. The guy said, nope, you got to go through the slides. So he's on slide 1. Where you start reading
This
the
is going to take
captions.
forever.
Well, Lee put up with that for like 120 seconds. And the guy said, before we get started, I am the chief planning officer of GPA. You want to go down 6th or you want to go down?
Oh, well, I don't know. Don't we want to? Oh, it's the Grace Church, yeah.
Oh no, you want to go to Grace? We'll go this way. But let's wait. So I am the Chief Planning Officer, CPO, of
Does that
Guinness
exist?
Pete. No, of Guinness Pete Aviation, GPA. You know, this is a really horrible presentation, and he puts up with this.
Was
for
that a
long-
lawyer?
I don't know. He's a liar.
Because lawyers love
I know.
to have those-
acronyms. And all
Right.
that. So he then.
That's a motorcycle playing that music.
So Waleed says, he said, Charles, I need to speak to you. So we get up from the boardroom, and there are like 30 people in the boardroom. He comes to my office. We go to his office. There's a mock-up of a yacht, the Trump yacht there,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
big
that-
one, like on the center of his monstrous table in the middle of his office. He said, "Is this guy an idiot? Did he plan to drive this company into bankruptcy?" I mean, tell the guy, I'll stay here. They'll tell the guy to shut the fuck up and go back to his hotel room. Because I have no interest in what he has to say. He didn't use the word fuck, but just shut up and disappear.
Okay. And then
And
you did that?
yeah,
Well, how'd the guy react?
he didn't have a choice. I don't care actually. So, and in that case, what we were doing is we were competing. Waleed was competing with GE.
Oh, wow.
And it was GE that then got a chance. When Waleed treated us like crap, so I called the bankers for GE up and I said, listen, you just really cannot trust this guy. And so GE got a chance to basically steal GPA. There's no other bidder.
Wow.
And the aircraft leasing piece that they got was, drove the success of GE for quite a while.
Wow.
Because GE did have a AAA rating, and GPA, of course, had no rating.
So wait, I missed something there. Al Waleed was with GE?
No, Al Waleed, my former brother-in-law, was the chief investment guy for Waleed.
Right.
And they wanted to develop a reputation of being the pocket you call when you need $100 million in
Why
48
is that guy
hours.
looking at us?
I don't know.
He was looking at us when we walked right by him.
Want a Rolex?
Yes,
And-
but there's none there.
So
Are you buying?
No. Want to
I'll take
protect?
two.
You want to protect Waleed?
Sure.
I'll give you the box.
Charles, really, you don't have to. I mean,
Anyway,
do they have the Meteorite Platinum 50th anniversary Daytona?
We can
'Cause
ask.
I wouldn't want that.
we can ask. So we want to go down Park, 5th? Madison?
Let's go here. We have the light.
Okay.
And it's IBM,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was GPA had all these leases that they had entered into with airlines, and their own capital structure was screwed. They had borrowed too much money and they couldn't roll over their debts. So they needed somebody to go in and inject capital into the company so that their massive positions that they had in all these aircraft leasings wouldn't explode. And GE had the ability to say, and as did the Prince, I'm the guy who stabilized Citibank. If I stand behind GPA, then the equity value, which is currently zero, will be restored to a gigantic amount of money, and I may not even have to put any money in.
So there's a lot of value in a unique way to these kind of like celebrity investors. Like
Well,
Elon Musk can do things just because he's Elon Musk that other people wouldn't be able to do, right? And Waleed too, even though he's a
Well,
dick.
no, so a guy like Musk has a real track record as Musk. Right now, there's some people who attack his various shenanigans and the different deals that he's done, like one company,
420.
one solar company merging with another. I don't know the particulars of all those
Solar
shenanigans.
City.
Solar City, and I haven't looked. That's a lovely stank. This, by the way, used to be the Sony building,
Well,
and
is
before
it,
that, the AT&T building. I don't know what
but
it is
is it
now.
not anymore? It was the Sony Experience or something in there.
Before that, it was first the AT&T building. Dylan Reed looked at taking the top several
It
floors of
also
this.
has a giant eye there.
Right. Dylan Reed looked at taking the top floors of this, but it was so opulent, so over the top that the partner said we just can't do it. But the various and sundry people who've been in this building have all had problems.
Really?
Ultimately, yeah. AT&T's got problems now. Sony's a disaster.
Is it?
Yeah.
The movie part of it is.
Well, movie part of it, and it's at its prime in the 90s. It was doing well, but and it's an outsider company. For a while, it was doing well, but it's had its rough patches.
They didn't really make a good transition from consumer electronics to computers.
Right. Right. Yeah,
They made computers for a while, but I don't even think they do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so either. This used to be a stock brokerage office here. Out. So,
So Waleed was doing that
so
GPA.
so back when he, when, of all people around the world, he had the guts to put up, I think it was 100 million, or a small amount of money in today's terms, or maybe it was more than that, and buy stock in a very troubled, complex bank, and stick with it. For a time, he was really popular. He was this guy.
This is the caviar
I like
place,
this place.
Charles.
You ever eaten there?
No, not
It's
here.
good.
That's fancy.
Used to be some very good caviar bars in Paris. Really good. Stuff is probably horrible for you, but
I don't think so. It's fish.
I like it.
It's good for you.
Is that Elon Musk? Skateboard and unicycle?
Wow, this guy's wearing shorts.
And
He's
a
nuts.
crutch.
Why?
Oh, that place is still in business. It's good. San Pietro is a very good Italian place.
So Waleed was.
So
putting up
Waleed
100
was
million.
good then, but now he's nowhere near as good as Musk, and he's also prone to exaggeration, as Musk elegantly pointed out.
Wow.
Waleed said I'm a big
This guy's
shareholder.
getting ready to run us over too. Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
Waleed said, you're not the only big shareholder. I've 5% of Twitter, and Musk said, well, the records don't seem to show that.
Did Musk say that?
Yeah.
I saw him say that that he's not. How much does the kingdom actually hold? So wait a minute. Al Waleed lied about still having 5.2%.
With him, you don't know. You just simply don't know.
Huh. Well,
How he does it. It's quite standard in places like Saudi Arabia and other places to have a supposed industrialist own stock, and you let that guy claim that he's the billionaire when in fact it's some prince who doesn't want his name. He doesn't want to be associated with the business, but he does want to make the investment.
so I don't understand what you mean.
So, if you're taking the case of the Philippines, I know this is name dropping, but I sat next to Imelda Marcos for about
Did you
4
check
hours.
out her shoes?
I did. They were nice. But
Wasn't she famous for having like 1 million shoes?
yeah.
Oh, there's a raptor.
So she was. It was her first day out from house arrest or whatever, and she happened to be in the same.
What's for dinner?
Exactly. So she happened to. I was dining with friends of mine, one of whom was in the cabinet of the Marcos cabinet when he was younger, and in a small restaurant in Manila. And
You opened the cabinet and there he was. What are you doing in here? Don't
no,
piss her off.
and I see this tall version of Imelda Marcos come up into the second floor where we were in this not a very fancy restaurant, and in the back streets of Makati. And I said to my friends, "There's a very tall version of Imelda Marcos walking up those stairs." And my friends took one look at her and jumped to attention. I mean, they didn't just like get up, they stood up at attention. Ma'am. Like,
Was he the king or?
he was the president. She was the wife of the president, Ferdinand, who died. But
Then she became the president too,
no.
Oh.
She went to jail. But other people, but it was explained that many of the various and sundry famous Philippine billionaires were just playing that role. That the Marcos family or the forces would go to the companies and say, "Listen, you don't own that, 45%."
It's like Obama.
Yeah, you don't
You
own
didn't
that.
make that.
You don't own that 45%. I do. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, well, okay, you want to fight me on it. Do you have an army?
Wow.
And so they
And now you have
appropriate.
Duarte there. He's also crazy, isn't he?
Isn't it Duterte or something?
Or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, but so it's sometimes that is the way it works. Hence the Foreign Agents Registration Act.
Super steamed out today.
The Foreign Agents Registration Act, which has been in existence since the 30s, identifies just this problem, that you can have businesses that over here that they say they're a business, but in fact they're controlled by the government clandestinely. So you have to, if you're going
Charles, what happened with that steam accident down by your place? This is a lot of steam for...
I don't know.
Did they fix it?
Let's hope it's steam. Not
I'm
something
saying,
else.
did they fix that?
I know it's a big construction project. It's going to be for many months.
Wow.
I don't know what the problem was. So anyway, there are rules about, there are rules in this market in particular, that if you are an investment fund, you have to disclose your holdings. If you're an active investor, or you're trying to take control of a company, you've got to disclose. There are very tight requirements that you actually have to meet. And you can't just, get 5 people together and say, each of us is going to take 10%, and so we won't have to disclose that we have 50%. Actually, that happened.
Isn't that a nasty lady hat he's
No.
wearing? Pink.
The P hat? PU? Anyway, that happened. There was a client, I could talk about it now because it's so many decades later, some folks from Drexel Burnham, which is out of business, paid a call on one of a Dillon client, I forget it was RJ Reynolds or another company like it, and said, we're a group, and they said this on an open speakerphone, we're a group, a number of people, and together we own 32% of the company. And somebody said, well, I'm just making these numbers up. Somebody said, well, have you filed a 13D? That's 5%. Once you have 5%, you've got to file within a short period of time and disclose how much you paid, when you bought it, and how much you have. And they just say, oh, we don't do that.
Wow.
And so this is one of the strengths of Nick Brady. He said, oh, really? You don't do that, do you?
Just got him arrested.
Well, better. He hung up the phone. He said, how do we put these people out of business? and he was instrumental in working behind the scenes to get the Tax Act of 1986 together, which changed highly leveraged real estate and energy speculators were screwed in that tax deal because the tax shelters went away in exchange for lowering tax rates. And then he went in as Treasury Secretary and made sure that Drexel's worst excesses were punished, and the company had to go out of business.
Wow.
Not just because of Nick Brady, but the company did go out of business.
That woman was smiling at you in a way that made me think perhaps she's watched the show. Did you see that?
Could be.
Driving the car.
Or she's saying, there's another crazy guy walking around.
Or she's disappointed that we weren't in the street where she could run us over.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm surprised Biden isn't hanging in Eden Fine Art.
Yeah. Oh, is that a Biden? No. This is a
Just
drop
change the name of
cloth.
that, Eden Fart.
Yeah.
Nothing about that art seems fine to me, but anyway. And this is this on a Sunday, generally this part of New York is quiet. This used to be the heart of the business world here, and after the financial guys moved uptown. Madison Avenue, 5th Avenue, 6th Avenue, Park Avenue. The big firms were all here, and now it's a ghost town. As you can see by
It's true. And Charles, there was some kind of warning or something issued telling people to get out of Kiev or something.
No, Mariupol.
Mariupol, sorry.
Yeah.
So I just checked briefly. It doesn't look like there's any immediate emergency happening, but it does seem like Russia, that guy was really speeding into the
He's
crosswalk.
an idiot. Look at this place. Out. I mean, we're walking down Madison Avenue here, and everything is out.
I know. And then this big building, they had a thing in the New York Post. It's got pyramids and diamonds all over it. Isn't Jamie Dimon the head of?
It's spelled D-I-M-O-N.
But you don't think that he loves using diamonds on everything? you know people who have a last name that sounds like a thing, and then you go to their house and there's a million of those things there.
I don't know anybody like that.
I knew
But
somebody like
here's
that.
garbage. This is probably somebody in there.
Suitcase?
In there.
Could be anything in there. Oh, in there. Yes, I agree.
It's like,
Park. That's the
probably
troubled asset recovery program.
he's probably
right there,
getting
Charles.
mail there. I live at 412. I live between 410 and 412 Madison Avenue. 411. Where should I drop your mail, sir? Well, just put it over here. For my 40th birthday, I bought myself a nice briefcase in a shop that used to be right here. And
Alligator?
No, just a nice, good quality leather briefcase. Not a big, thin one, but it was an old-fashioned, leather shop for wallets and briefcases and things like that. And,
Probably long gone.
well, it was right. It used to be right there. It's
Still-
definitely gone.
Yeah. Well, but just on the alligator thing, did I ever tell you the story? I think I've mentioned that 21st Century 3D used to do a lot of work for pharmaceutical companies, and Pfizer merged with or bought this company. Maybe it was Wyeth. Maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly. But that company's signature thing, it was that when they would go call on a doctor, they would give them a gift of an alligator bag.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Well, you're not allowed to do that anymore, but that was their thing. So when Pfizer bought them, they wanted us to make a 3D video with an alligator in it. And I was like, oh, But that came up, so we basically what they would typically do is they would rent a hotel suite at some kind of meeting. They're having some kind of sales meeting, so all the Pfizer people are there. And then we would show up, we'd have a hotel suite rented, and just bring in the various people and sit them down and shoot one interview after the next. And then the ad agency would, put it together into a thing. And then so in the middle of all this couple days of shooting people sitting in a hotel room, the woman from the ad agency said to me, oh, we're gonna bring in an alligator. And I said, this is a hotel. And she's like, yeah. I said, you can't bring an alligator into a hotel.
She's like,
and
watch
she said,
me.
no, this guy says we can. I said, well, I'm saying you can't, because I'm not gonna be in a hotel room with an alligator. You never said anything about that. That's incredibly dangerous. And they were like, oh, okay. And then the next day, some hillbilly shows up with an alligator in a bag.
A big one or a small?
It was a baby alligator, but it was 6 feet long. And I mean, it basically, so this is the alligator trainer, right? And the alligator is like running around the hotel room, and he takes a little arm from one of our C-stands, like a metal stick. And he's beating the alligator with it. And the alligator is biting it. You hear the teeth crunching,
What
and
an
blood
episode.
is coming out of the
Jesus.
alligator's mouth from its own teeth biting on this metal stick. And I'm like, what is going on?
You sure
And then
that-
they wanted us to shoot the alligator on a green screen. And I was like, let me explain something to you. No, the alligator is green. This is what happens when idiots come up with plans and then ask actual people to do it.
So Biden was working on this?
I don't know. But eventually we were able to, from all this footage of the alligator almost biting the hillbilly's hand off, what they wanted was the alligator showing up on camera and biting down. And they were so upset that they couldn't get it. And I eventually was able to end the day by saying we have a ton of footage of it biting the stick and then releasing the stick.
Right, you should be able to back.
I'm just going to roll it in reverse.
Right.
And they were like, ooh, that's a good idea.
What did you do, just throw the alligator out the window?
Somehow they captured it and put it back in the burlap sack, but it was one of the stupidest things ever done,
Yeah, it really is. That's
fighting an alligator.
outrageous. I mean, I thought they stopped allowing you to purchase alligators decades ago.
This guy, we were in Florida, and this guy came from like Gatorland or something, which was like an alligator.
Oof.
Oh, something just happened to the shoe. It was like an alligator. It was totally not nice to the alligator. Like any PETA people would have hated this. And I guarantee all those advertising agency people are now pro-Ukraine, pro-Biden.
Oh yeah, gotta be.
Break the alligator's teeth, but
That's right.
you know. And we
Yeah.
could have been eaten by that thing. It was dangerous as hell.
Well, I don't know if we can transition to the, you want to talk about that demonstration you said?
Yes, right. Let's talk about Extinction Rebellion. What's their deal?
So Extinction Rebellion, there's a U.S. charity, and I think there's an English charity, and it's basically, I would liken it to Antifa.
Yes.
And if it isn't in fact Antifa, and one of the big proud funders of, I think, the UK version is that Cohn guy, Cooper Hone, rather. Children's Investment Fund Foundation. Now, one of the first videos that we did back in 17 was about this Children's Investment Fund Foundation, which, let's just go over here for a second.
What do we have here?
Volvo.
No, but there's something that it's active.
Oh, Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
More retail space for lease in case you need some.
Right. Alden.
Those are high-end shoes, actually. Expensive shoes.
Yeah.
Made in America, actually. Look at these, for example. These very nice loafers.
What do you think those cost?
$600-700. As a guess, maybe more. People can tell us. Well, if they last 20 years, it's not bad.
True.
You know. Of course, people now who wander around my neighborhood don't bother wearing shoes anymore,
Right.
or socks. They go full Ortel. No socks, no shoes.
Not on the sidewalk, though. How do you
Stupid.
not get a foot injury in seconds?
You're able to you feel the cigarette butts that you're trying to pick up with your hands and then smoke because
you
got
get
your.
those kind of shoes that have toes in them.
No, you use your actual soles. Gets you closer to the butts. It's a sole-butt ratio. No, you're going to wait.
Well, okay, but so the Extinction Rebellion.
So Extinction Rebellion is funded by this Children's Investment Fund Foundation pioneer, who, when we did the presentation, what I quickly figured out is rather than pay a placement agent to raise money for a new fund, he was able, using his ties to the Clintons and others, to quickly forge relationships with the Princess Diana charity and other ones by saying, what I'm going to do, we care about children in this fund, the Hillary Clinton model. It's for the children.
Right.
And so a portion of our profits we're going to dedicate to our foundation, right? But that portion of the profits, by my calculation, is less than he would have had to pay. They, at the time they were married, they would have had to pay a real placement agent to raise money for a fund. And the foundation, the fund came into existence after the foundation. So you could definitely argue that the fund was a product, a direct result. They personally benefit
from the foundation.
Well, no. They create the foundation, and then with all the publicity of the foundation, they're able to get the fund.
So it's a personal benefit.
Personal benefit, and then what they, just like anything else, what they don't say to the great Norman, exactly. What they don't say to the public is that the foundation will exclusively invest in the fund. See, if you wanted to do that business model and
why is the foundation investing in anything?
Well, because it argues that
you're
needs to have
allowed to?
yeah, you could do that. You could argue that you need to have an endowment, that your programs are multi-year programs, and you want to make sure that there's enough money around so that you can fund these excellent programs into, long into the foreseeable future. That's why we have this endowment. That would be fine if you then took the additional step and said, because we want to make really certain that there's no allegation of enormment, none of the foundation's endowment capital will be put into any fund managed by the family. Instead of doing that, they did the Clinton model. Fuck that, all of the money is going to go into our funds, under an argument that these people are more careful. That's their whole.
That's their excuse.
Well, that's their marketing approach. That we're young, we're going to reinvent philanthropy. We care more about the laws and rules than anybody else. We do that in our fund. We're really careful. That's why we didn't notice that the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS initiative didn't exist, or that the Clinton Foundation had no authority to operate outside the Little Rock Park, and that's why we put a majority of our early contributions went to a Clinton Foundation that didn't exist. We're that careful. So today, Cooper Hone is a lord. You know, he's Lord something of something, and he's one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid, fund manager in the UK and maybe across Europe. And so people are, and he's a hostile raider. You know, so he will go after companies and break them up. So he's got money, he's got experience, he's got this big name and brand. And evidently, I don't know if he still is, but there was a time, well, this is sad. This was a big chain, Essen. And look at it, it's a mess. It's gone.
Are they all out of business?
I think so.
It seems like they just opened right before the pandemic.
Right. It doesn't look like they did a good job. There's still food in there.
Yeah, that's weird. Wow, yeah, look at all these different financial districts, Soho, Chelsea, Nomad, Midtown. I think we've seen all of these.
Yeah, there's fruit and stuff in there.
You feeling hungry? It looks pretty fresh. It can't have been closed for that long.
It looks pretty damn closed.
I mean, it looks like they just abandoned it with milk and stuff in there. Very weird.
No rats in there, of course. It's a job for the Schumer family business.
So that guy's basically playing a scam, but all those people standing around in the protest yesterday didn't know anything about that. They were just basically, what is the climate agenda that the thing has?
Well, I mean,
all the standard stuff.
crap. You know, the model show. We checked them, of course, and we don't know that they're accurate. But we have a model over here that says the globe is going to blow up in 8 years if we don't stop using fossil fuels. So let's do that now.
I mean, the thing that I said to this guy who, wanted to have a conversation was that, look, obviously I want to protect and preserve the environment and have the earth be a healthy place to live. I just don't think that carbon dioxide is the primary pollutant we need to be worried about cleaning up.
Well, as real climate experts will tell you, and I know of one, the picture on Earth prior to humans was not pretty. There were earthquakes and there were volcanoes and the atmosphere, there was
hostile
unchecked forest fires, and there was a lot, and a forest fire burning out of control for even a week is going to do a lot more, does tremendous damage to the environment. And there were forest fires before man populated the planet, and there are going to be forest fires after man leaves the planet.
Now, there's another non-profit issue that's been in the news lately, which is Patrisse Cullors being triggered by the discussion of 990s.
It's like this whole
it's very dangerous for her. Well, it's been weaponized, Charles. The law is a bitch.
Right. Yeah.
When you run afoul of it.
Right. Yeah. It's I didn't know I couldn't steal $7 million.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dumb excuse. Yeah. You had to know that when you have a charity, just buying yourself a mansion with the money can't possibly be what you're supposed to do.
It's not?
Is that someone or just garbage?
I don't know. You got a yoga mat.
Oh, well, maybe they're doing yoga.
And an I Love New York.
Charles, yeah, that's the shot right there.
I Love New York.
That's where we're at right now.
Right. I Love New York
in the
gutter. I think that could be right there. You do it with, you got the little debris over there, the pigeon shit. I mean, maybe we do 100 lithographs, 100 copies of that lithograph. What do you think, Jason? How much does Hunter Biden get for that? It's $500,000 each.
Picture of destruction.
You're a multi-millionaire just on this walk. All these ideas we're coming up with.
Now, if only my father could run for president.
Exactly.
He's definitely got it together more than Joe Biden.
I think the person in that box back there is probably.
If my father became president, he would be so pissed off. Not that he became president,
he'd have to work.
You just take him. No, I'm saying just take him now and put him up there. He'd tell everybody what he thinks.
He's pretty funny.
Well, but the other thing about it is, Charles.
Yeah.
So they're going after the Lieutenant Governor Benjamin. Right. They put Corrine Brown in jail.
Yeah, because they're black.
And now they have Black Lives Matter. But no one, it goes back to my buddy the mad tweeter, the former head of news, government, and politics at Twitter, who's now the president and CEO
There is somebody
of
there.
National Academy of Television. He hasn't filed a 990 once
Yeah.
since 2019, 20, and 21. Nobody's saying anything to him. That's as illegal as Black Lives Matters. I hope that Letitia James will look into what the National Academy of Television is doing.
Well, when you think about, I mean, it's surface level thinkers, of course. What they're able to do is they're able to say, okay, profit is a dirty word, right? Obviously, if my enterprise doesn't waste time chasing a profit, then I, of course,
I get to have a mansion.
I'm more virtuous
Right.
than you profit seekers, you know. And so that ignores the idea that in a for-profit business with many shareholders, you generally do not get away with skiving off revenue.
No, they'd
You know-
fire you and get you arrested.
Well, I mean, there are other people who have an interest in making sure that the revenue does go into the company, right?
Yeah, everybody working for the company.
Right. Because everybody gets, in a well-run company, there are bonuses and other schemes, and so people do care, and there's information, whatever. In a charity, like the Clinton scams and other scams, the way you scam tremendous amounts of money is you decide that your charity has, quote, a mission, which is bullshit. Charities have either purposes or they don't. If they don't have
Right.
purposes, they're not charities. And you can't say, well, my purpose is this, but my mission is that. You've got to have purposes, and you got to,
And that's what
and
you
the
do.
activities must further exclusively those purposes, and those purposes have to be defined in the Articles of Incorporation, and they have to fit into the definitions authorized by the IRS, unless you're
the
playing big
Clintons.
like the Clintons
Right.
and the Obamas and the Bushes, and you say, you know, fuck the IRS.
whatever.
We do what we want, right? So in a dirty charity, what you're doing is you're saying, we're going to have a fundraiser. It's fantastic. We had this earthquake over here. We got the Ukraine problem. We got,
yeah.
you know, we're going to have a really successful fundraiser. We raised $22 million. People say, wow, Charles, that's great. You raised $22 million. Yeah, pat me on the back. Pat me on the back. Just don't
kept
look over
20,
here.
yeah.
I kept 200.
Right.
Right. But I'll say, you know, that's far worse. And you're able to do that in a charity because most of the times the people around charity, Andy Kessel, for example, at the CFO, he's got a brick in his head. He's an idiot, you know. And
Well, you mean because it's a different type of executive that's going into the charity world than the for-profit world?
well, you select people who just think that,
Ignore stuff?
yeah, just ignore it. Yeah, I mean, you could, it's easy to go, as we'll see in the streets, you know, around Easter time, there are all people collecting money for churches and causes, and as it gets warmer and warmer, you're going to have kids stopping on the street saying, do you care about dogs? Give money to the ASPCA. Do you care about St. Jude? Do you care about this and that? But in a charity, as we see with the Clinton Foundation and multiple other charities, especially including BLM, and by the way, we were among the very first to call BLM out.
Oh, we
And-
just looked at the data.
Well, and the absence of,
Right.
of key filings. And now I think we're in a place where it is politically very difficult, as it should be, for defenders of the Clintons to say, yeah, let's go after BLM, but let's ignore the first black president, Bill Clinton, and his looting campaign through various charities. I mean, they're out there tweeting even today and yesterday, the Clinton family.
Saying give money to the
To this
foundation.
Clinton Global, they had, of all things, they had a podcast where they had the elder abuse fake doctor Jill Biden went on a podcast with
Is
Hillary.
she an elder abuse doctor? Or
No,
she's doing elder
she's
abuse?
She's an elder
Yeah.
abuse practitioner,
Right.
Jason, and she's not a doctor.
Yeah.
But
Doctor of education, right.
So a fake doctor and a real charity scam artist
Whoa.
walk into a bar. I mean, walk into a podcast, and that's what they did. And
Look at this.
and Hillary, they're coming for you, Jason. They
Probably a cell phone battery died. They can't text.
donut time, donuts. But something
wait a
serious
minute.
happened. Maybe there is something serious. Here's the second. Something has happened. They're heading towards St. Pat's.
Well,
Maybe people can look in the send us in the comments and see if there's anything. How
Yeah.
do you write a book with that title?
got to be black or you'd get killed.
And this is Rachel Dolezal,
Is that?
Artificial Color. The white woman who said she was black.
Oh yeah. Well, actually,
That's not about her, actually.
here we have Tim saying he warned his union about donating money to BLM, and as a result, they reluctantly listened.
Good for them. Good for you. And it really, even Eric Adams, who's
Dumb as a stump.
dumb. I mean, that man, he makes Al Sharpton look like a visionary. I mean, an honest visionary. But even he's out there a couple nights ago on TV saying, "Well, I thought Black
Right.
Lives Matter."
Right.
My point exactly. They do matter, and the last thing you want to do is, I mean, if Black Lives really mattered, the NBA would say to China, "Fuck you. We're not going to do basketball in China. And we're not going to make China allow Nike to make shoes in your slave factories."
Or basketballs or
and
whatever they're making.
we're just not doing it. You want to do? You can have your own basketball, but we're
What
not.
about
None of
Yao
our,
Ming?
Let him play here.
He retired.
I'm saying, but if he was playing, we'll let Chinese people come to this country and play here in the NBA. But as far as having an NBA in a country that has locked down minorities in slave camps and is abusing people, well, fuck them.
Other than Yao Ming, are Chinese people any good at basketball?
I don't want to make stereotypes like that. I mean,
But I mean, there's like
I'm sure there-
Russia's good at hockey, Canada's good at hockey. Is that a stereotype or a fact?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many Chinese people. There got to be
Probably
a lot of
somebody
talent. There
there
got to
is
be
good at
some
basketball.
tall people there.
I think that Kim Jong-un loves basketball and is supposed to be pretty good at
Oh,
it.
sure. Every game
No,
he's
that-
in, every game he's in, he scores all the points and he
No,
wins
no,
10,000
that's
to
why
0.
he wanted to become friends with Dennis.
Robin. Yeah.
Right. And also, apparently, when he was in school, he played basketball.
Really?
I mean, he's a little heavy.
It's
for-
probably like Idi Amin Dada in his film.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Well, anyway, hopefully, Charles, under your guidance, I will basically be the Charles Ortel of the Emmys, expose
That's good.
what evidence causes me to believe is impropriety in the handling of the finances.
Right. I mean, the IRS even says on their various publications that they rely on the public, that they don't have enough people to police all the charities, so they rely on the donating public who do care. Most people don't understand is this country is actually, even today, still God on Easter Sunday, God and Passover, a God-fearing religious country. And people who are into religion take the practice of charity very
Right.
seriously.
You get pissed off when they find out that you lied to them and stole the money.
Right, but indeed they genuinely try to do good charitable works. And a large percentage of the money spent every year on charity goes through religions.
Right.
Tithing or whatever. I don't know if Judaism has tithing or not, but
Good
people-
tidings.
tithing, you give a fixed percentage of your income I know my former father-in-law, his entire life has given a substantial percentage of his money to his faith.
Oh, yes. I remember speaking to some people in Salt Lake City about this.
Right. And there are revelations that that money in the Mormon Church has been abused, and people are really
That's
pissed
what
off.
I was
Pissed-
looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. So
They did make those good cartoons, Davy and Goliath.
it's Family Guy, right?
Is that
Isn't
Mormons?
isn't I think Mormons are behind. Is it The Simpsons or they're what?
It's Davy and Goliath, definitely.
No,
not
and
the
later
Simpsons.
the
The
book.
Mormons are making the
The
Simpsons?
guy who did the book, I don't know about The Simpsons, but the guy who did the Book of Mormon.
Well, that's South Park, but that's making fun
Yeah,
of
he-
Mormons.
Well, I think, there's this phrase, Jack Mormon, you're a former Mormon. I don't know, there's some Mormon.
Oh, I
talk-
think one of them maybe grew up Mormon, but
Right.
rejected it. That's
Right.
possible.
But
But
Anyway, so on the subject of charity, most people do. It's amazing how much money we do in this country give away when you consider that in addition to the money that we give away, we're borrowing trillions of dollars
Right.
a year more than we take in across all our government platforms to give still more money away.
To
in
Ukraine.
social spending here and elsewhere.
What's going on here? Some
Pal
kind of
Pal.
new restaurant.
It says Pal Pal. Is that the name of it?
Where do you see that? Oh yeah, Pal Pal. Is this a new restaurant?
Oh yeah, we just it's been only 2 weeks.
And what kind of food?
It's a Korean cuisine.
Korean. Ah.
Good. Well, good luck to you.
What is Pal Pal? That's the name of the restaurant?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Is this the first one or the?
Our company owns 10 to 11 restaurants from this around this area.
Oh,
Is this a Neuralink logo on the shirt?
Yeah, Kappa also means number 88, so that's why
Pal Pal means 88.
in Korean, yeah.
Wow, okay, thank you.
good luck.
I wasn't about to tell that guy, Charles, that 88 has significance in white supremacy.
That's probably
Bad name for that guy.
in New York City. Yeah.
I thought he was wearing a Neuralink shirt and I was going to ask him if he had a chip in his brain. We're seeing a lot of Teslers today.
Teslers. Are they from China?
I don't think any Chinese Teslas come to the United States. The whole point of having the plant in China is that those cars are for China, and the thing in Texas is building cars for the U.S. I think he said something about this at the rodeo or whatever that was, the cyber rodeo, that they wanted to be green by not shipping cars around on giant boats.
Well, that the whole business model. We should go back to local production for local
Yeah.
markets.
Well, that's what he's saying. I have to say,
garbage adjacent.
even if people hate Elon Musk, the things that he's talking about in terms of running his company make sense.
Oh, come on, the things that Joe Biden are saying make no sense.
Well, that's right. And then Mike Cernovich had a tweet saying, oh, Elon Musk should run for president.
He was
And
born
people were
in-
like, but he was born in South Africa. And you know, Cernovich is like, I know about the Constitution, but nobody would have standing to...
Oh, stop.
Yeah, it was stupid as hell. Mike Cernovich is generally stupid, but I don't think Elon Musk should run for president.
No. Now is Scarpetta? Who owns this Scarpetta restaurant? Is that
Don't know.
there's a character who
Is it that guy who used to own what is now...
Scaramucci owns a restaurant. I don't know which one, but Scarpetta. There is. I thought there was a character in those mystery detective novels. Last name Scarpetta. Anyway.
I don't know.
So on the subject of these filings, there's one thing, people say, why is Ortel taking so long to drop these detailed memos? What's taking so long? Well, the Clinton Foundation on November 18th, 2004 entered into a 200-year deal with the National Archives. 200-year deal.
It's a very long deal.
Which obligates the Clinton Foundation to actually be a foundation.
Right.
Among other things. And so every year, the basis upon which our National Archives is operating the Clinton Library is not, they didn't receive the building as a gift. They didn't enter into a lease with, what they're doing is they have a license to operate from an entity that doesn't exist. And at some point, somebody is going to challenge that license.
What do you mean? Who would do that?
Well, remember, one government entity or another that's losing tax revenue, or somebody's going to decide that they want to do something about it. And we're only into this process now 18 years out of the 200.
So you still got
You got a lot of time. And
82
every
years.
every year that they flagrantly flout the law everywhere in the U.S. And don't fix anything,
Yeah.
and fail to have financial statements that are fit and proper, and continue to cover up the fact that somebody stole more than 70 million from this thing around 2004 to 2006. so long as they continue to do this, it just is making the case ever stronger that these people, that the foundation needs to be in conservatorship. It needs to be, the Clintons need to be pulled out of there.
Isn't a conservatorship what they did to Britney Spears?
Well, yeah, this would be for, you can do it for corporations as well. Here's your car.
This is just a Cayman, actually. They've just come out with the GTS4, I think, which is a crazy, crazy version of this. Strange to me, Charles, the engine compartment is right here.
Wow.
You should, I think, hear it if you're driving the car. But it's a mid-engine.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Some have said the GT4S of this is the ultimate Porsche. I
So,
think maybe
so,
Doug DeMuro said that.
so going back to the Clinton Foundation, there is abundant evidence that the FBI chose to miss the flagrant flaws that remain uncorrected in the Clinton Foundation and infected the Bush family because they cooperated different ways with
Are
Bill
you sure
Clinton.
that's the direction it went?
Who knows? But what we can say for a moment that maybe it's that way, maybe it's one big project. And when John Durham, there's been some, I think, very good developments in the John Durham filings that people are commenting on, Substack, with Technofog and others have gone through these filings, and what they're seeing is what we discussed actually in real time when we started getting together. We said there's no way that the investigation by Mueller had a valid predicate. Right? There's no way. I mean, obviously, the folks in the FBI and the Department of Justice chose to launch a con job investigation, and that's what you have to look into. And you have to, in order for the public to be satisfied that we understand what really happened, you've got to go and say, what would lead Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and others to persecute Donald Trump while he was president? What were they afraid of?
Yeah.
You know, that's the question that needs to
Seems
be answered.
similar to what the Twitter people are afraid of, and similar to what the Emmys people are afraid of.
So
The
we'll go down,
Sure.
crowdsource the scam. Needs to be the evil twin of crowdsource the truth.
Figuring out the scam.
No, crowdsource be the scam, Jason. I mean, we don't want to be the scam, but that's what
They are the scam.
They are the scam.
But
They
what I'm
am the
saying
scam.
is, Charles, there's a lot of people who enter into these really tremendous overtures to do things that don't make sense, and you have to look at that in the context
Right.
of
Right, but
you know,
so just going back there.
criminality.
So I started talking about limited hangout a number of minutes
Right.
ago, and I think the limited hangout that I see from a review of my notes, when you go in and you look at Bill Clinton's kitchen sink book, 1,000 pages, the
My
questions, yeah, My Lies, I think is the right name. You've got to go and, when you know his history, you got to look at periods of time and say, he was down at the opening of the Bush Library. How come there's nothing in there in My Lies about that? You would think that,
Why not?
well, maybe he doesn't want folks to draw attention to the fact that significant decisions were made between October 23rd, 1997 and December 22nd, 1997, when there were no bylaws. How did decisions of the Clinton Foundation get made if there were no officers, no trustees? Who hired the law
I like
firm?
this track that you're on here because I've separately noticed when I sometimes go to make thumbnail pictures of things, you look for people and there are never any pictures of them together. Has Bill Clinton in any of his books, Charles, said anything about Pierre Trudeau?
I haven't looked for it. We can, but so just if I could just finish this one thing. So in '97, one thing that leaps out of his book is right before he goes down to me. Yeah, feel free to block. It's a great place to stand.
Just have a long conversation
Right in the
of
middle.
sidewalk.
Just airhead to airhead.
Shoes.
Nice. Let's see. Avoid the salt.
Charles, here's a fellow YouTuber or something.
Where? Oh, that person? Yeah. YouTube to YouTube. So,
So Bill Clinton's writing the book.
So right in this period, the Articles of Incorporation were adopted not by the trustees, but by 3 lawyers who all had massive conflicts of interest. They were owed money, And the Clintons were not going to be able to pay it because it was unclear whether or not Bill would be impeached and convicted. You know,
Right.
This is prior to all that stuff bubbling up. And the lawyers knew about the problems because some of the lawyers were representing Bill on Paula Jones. They knew the significance of that. They obviously, in their powerful firms, Williams and Connolly is one of them, and in a large firm in Little Rock.
Whoa.
What?
Bees. We care about pollinators. This bee home
Just
allows
not-
the bees to have a safe place.
Just not people.
Why do they want bees hiving right near where everybody is walking with their dogs?
Because you want to teach children a lesson that bees are dangerous. You want the bees to sting the children.
That's wild. Sounds like there's a
Making that
band
part of it.
somewhere around.
There we
But,
have a
sorry,
re-
you were telling us that Bill
So-
Clinton.
Yeah, so October 23rd, 1997, lawyers get together, they adopt these articles, but that doesn't mean, all that means is that the thing was incorporated, not that it was organized.
Right.
And then that idiot Skip Rutherford, who was the first president of the Clinton Foundation, he was made the registered agent in the articles on October 23rd, but he's giving press conferences by November 6th or 7th when the Bill and Hillary, who are not officers, not trustees, not actually connected to the Clinton Foundation, they inform the government of the city of Little Rock that they have decided the Clinton Foundation is going to be at a specific site in Little Rock. Even though, and there are announcements before that stating that Bill and Hillary had made other decisions limiting, well, there was some kind of protest here.
Let's take a look. Why do you think they changed it like that? What's behind that?
Well, you're not allowed to do that.
But why would they?
Well, because they want the ability to be fundraising. Oh, this is just
But
a,
why does that require them to change the location?
explain to me.
Get their hands up.
Earth, wind, and fire, Charles. Your favorite.
No, the guy's not playing the guitar. He wasn't playing guitar, yet there were guitar sounds coming out. I think that's a fake band.
Well, everything is fake these days. So they changed the location, but why? I don't understand. What?
Well, no, my point is that what only organizations can become charities, right? To be an organization, you have to have an organizational meeting. And they didn't have such a meeting until the earliest December 23rd, 1997, yet they had made all these significant decisions between October 23rd and December 22nd, and even before then, before October 23rd, Bill and Hillary, just like the Obamas, were giving announcements. We're going to have a competition for where the library will be, and we've limited this. We've had 40 sites we're looking at. Now it's 20. Now it's 10. Now it's whatever. All this activity happened before there was a formal organization. None of this activity was disclosed in the application for federal tax exemption.
Well, now wait a minute. Could it be that different people are like, oh, we'll give you money if you build it here, or we'll give you money?
Of course that happened, and even more than that, what was going on,
Right.
and this is, to be told at a later date in detail. Downtown Little Rock, where the foundation now sits, was a slum. It had fallen into disrepair. It was a blighted neighborhood. It had been blighted for decades. And the decision by the Clinton Foundation and other corporations to do these large projects vastly increased the value
Of
of
real
derelict land.
So they can
And
buy it all up cheap.
So the people who were promoting the Clinton Foundation were also behind the scenes profiteering.
And there is a whole revitalized downtown area around that stupid thing that I was checking out when I went there last year or whatever. And there's also a ridiculously noticeable amount of interest in satanic stuff in that downtown. There was a micro brew beer place that had some kind of satanic name. They have that weird demon sculpture
Right.
in the. No, this is not how this works. That you just drive through the light.
It is how
Guy
it
was
is.
looking at his phone.
Bonehead. There'll be a bonehead.
Oh, you didn't check to see if it was New Jersey plates.
It was New York, I checked. So, hi. So, the paperwork is all screwed up here in a way that would blow normal charities completely out of the water.
Right.
And you asked the question, why are we going after BLM, Patrice Cullors,
Right.
and the lieutenant governor, should be called the vice governor, of New York, and Corinne Brown and others, because the IRS and the people in Washington, D.C. have just let it be known, we're going to let grifters at the Conservative Political Action Committee, or whatever they call that thing, CPAC,
Yeah.
and the American Conservative Union, we're going to let them slide, and we'll let Fitton slide, and we'll let the Clinton slide, and we'll let the Southern Poverty Law Center slide, because we have then we'll let Media Matters slide, because then we have the whole political spectrum covered, and we can make them, we can let
do
them,
whatever we want.
right. And, I suppose it's not fine, obviously, but I suppose you let people do that if your government isn't hemorrhaging money. But one of the things that Obama, who I think from an economic standpoint is the worst president of any country.
Up until now, Joe Biden's definitely got him beat, doesn't he?
Well, no, because Biden's not going to be there for 8 years.
Oh, good point. He's probably not
So-
going to be on this planet for 8 years.
One thing that B-Rock did is he allowed us, coming off the heels of the Bushes, to embrace structural deficits, vast amounts of spending.
What do you mean structural deficits?
Well, how are you going to close the deficit now? You can't raise taxes enough
Right.
to collect money to pay for this gigantic spending. The spending is the problem,
Right.
and that's got to be cut. But how are you going to go and say, all right, we're going to cut the military in the middle of World War III? You can't do that.
Yeah. But Putin might cut the military in the middle of World War
Right,
III.
well-
Why'd you park all the way over here, Charles?
Gotta spread them out. White one over here. But so if you go back and you look at the spending, now granted he inherited a mess from W, but I think he compounded the mess. And this Janet Yellen, who is literally the dumbest Treasury Secretary I've ever conceived. I can conceive of having in position. She is undeniably stupid. People
Yeah.
who know nothing about economics are going to find out every day now that inflation is not transitory, i.e. temporary. It's not going to snap back.
It's not affecting the Tesla buyers here in New York City, though.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's a
It's,
lot of them.
But when you go, every day that you go into a store now, you're going to see prices go up.
Actually, somebody was posting, she went shopping, and then this week everything was $2 more.
Right. Yeah, and it's not going to be just little $2 increments either. This is before we get through the next wave. I mean, we're coming off.
What's the next wave?
Well, gasoline in America is one blend in the winter, and it's a different blend in the summer.
Right.
So you're going to move to a different blend, and you're going to have issues of
12-year aged.
No. You're going to have issues of do you have the supply you need to mix the fuel the way you want? Is it in the places you want it to be? You've got.
Well, but they already said they're doing that ethanol blend, which is.
Well, they're going to try to do that, but the point is, there are third parties who are going to say we're not going to cooperate. These include Russia,
right.
and Iran, and others are going to say, we like the fact that you're flat on your back here. We're going to make your lives worse. We're going to say, you know what? No fertilizer for you. No soup for you.
Fertilizer is another thing that you can extract from seawater.
In the future, but right now.
Right, not right now, right?
Today's April 17th. How are you going to give me the fertilizer tomorroher so we can
That's
work
true.
on,
It's going to throw off the planting season.
Right, and so you're sitting there, and Tucker has had a big farmer from the Midwest on several times, explaining that you have to make these kind of decisions months ago.
Way in advance, right.
And so you can't just say, well, on second thought, I was going to grow crops this way, now I'm going to grow them that way. You've already been planting your crops. You may have made a decision you're not going to plant.
Or missed the window
Right.
to plant.
And then you get to the question, how are you going to ship things around this country? You've got drivers who and pilots and others who are saying, fuck this, I'm not going to
But
continue to work.
everything you're saying is making me think that some disgusting little nerd like Bill Gates is going to come along and say, well, there's no food, so why don't you eat these fake shit
Yeah, well,
burgers?
after him, well, he can have the first 10 million shit
Turd
burgers.
burgers.
He is a turd
Oh,
burger.
wait a minute. That's the idea. They're going to open the restaurant Ass Burgers. Bill Gates could be the president.
He is.
Yeah.
Joe Biden should be the celebrity spokesperson.
Oh my God. Did you see the LED lights taped to the front of that guy's car?
I didn't.
It was the opposite of Pimp My Ride.
Is that right? You know, these people just saying, we don't care about lights. We'll just. We don't need
drive
no.
around during the daytime.
I don't need no fucking light. So we'll get out Broadway. So we wanted to take the risk of going into the animal kingdom. Walk down the path here.
Sure.
Go, I don't like going through these spots.
Sorry. Oh, good, bad luck to stand there.
Whatever. I just don't like to avoid them.
Kissing spot. Hey, what happened to the anachronistic society that used to have jousting battles in here on Tuesdays?
What? Did they really used to
You
do
never
that?
saw those guys dressed
No.
up in armor fighting?
Oh, that's too
I like
type
that.
A, I'm sure, but
I didn't do it. I liked watching it. They're just
they
sitting
have
here smashing each other.
did they have dwarf throwing contests too, or no?
I didn't see that, but it would be, you know, you sort of build your own armor and then come out here and have sword battles with people.
What could go wrong with that?
Definitely ripe for injuries, but as a spectator event, it was interesting. I don't know
Were
if I
tickets
ever got
expensive?
that on the show.
Were tickets expensive?
I think it's free. You just walk by there and watch. Now, this
How
guy
much
on the
the-
corner looks like a problem, Charles.
Which guy?
If he pops up here on the right.
All right, we'll go wide. All right. We've got this nice collection of garbage over there. He's fine. So, you know, here we are. This is Union Square. This is back in the 80s. This was covered over. It was.
Smells like manure right now. Oh, I guess they're doing something with the grass.
Well,
over
this is
there.
the farmers are, you know, this is what they're doing. They're preparing the
Seeding
fields.
the grass.
Yeah. And so, you know, we don't have time. And Putin is well aware of this. He's got his wheat crop.
Right.
He's got all sorts of things. And there are a lot of countries across Africa and elsewhere that rely on imports of food.
Well, Charles, you know, Jen Psaki
Ugh.
would turn several pages and basically demean you while she tells you you could just order in if there's no crops.
That's right. It's
And take a
DoorDash
yoga
it.
class.
DoorDash
Yeah.
it. Buy a Tesla.
Have a martini.
Buy a
and
Tesla.
Just relax.
Yeah.
Legal weed.
But
and Popeye's chicken. That's
But
the answer.
She also is a member of the Rising Cadence Sentence Club.
Exactly. And the Connecticut Country Day School.
It's spelled without the O. But here we are. This is like, this is,
It's pretty calm today.
Well, we say that. Let's see is there any,
No major little
Famous
jazz
last
music
words.
going. There's like a dog bath right there. I never noticed that before.
that guy's not bad actually
Oh
on
yeah,
the
that's
sax.
a good sounding saxophone.
He's probably
I
a
love the
Juilliard
sound
student.
of a
Probably pretty good.
Here's somebody just left the Bible there on Easter.
So yeah.
What's going on here?
This is,
Karaoke. Easter karaoke.
what is that?
Charles. See, it looks like karaoke.
Oh, Sarah Wing.
Who is
She's
that?
a musician trying to get Venmo'd.
Ah. This is really pretty empty.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just too cold.
It's a little on the chilly side, and now we're headed to
Yeah.
see the spire of Grace Church there.
Well, that'll be a nice place, I think, to end the Christmas show. Not really a Christmas special.
What are you, Joe Biden? Easter.
Oh, that's what I meant. Exactly. Joe Biden, yes, that was a bad mistake.
That's
So
all
this
right.
is another guy who wants to go right through our light and run us over.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Christmas caroling down at this church.
Right. Christmas, Easter, you know.
Is this still a functional movie theater?
I don't know.
What are they saying on there? Regal.
Save on
tickets, I
yeah,
guess it is.
by not going. That's how I say on tickets.
Doctor Strange. Oh, but that movie's not out yet.
But you can buy that. Doesn't stop them from selling tickets.
Now, see, what doesn't make sense to me, Charles, is that they're saying that person was totally not looking. She should work for the cops.
She probably does.
Yeah, texting, almost
So
crashing
she learns
into
how
people.
to do that.
So here's what doesn't make sense to me, Charles. The Spider-Man movie comes out. There's been a lot of Spider-Man movies. It was okay. I don't think it was bad, but I don't think it was great. And they're saying it broke all kinds of records,
Right.
even from before the pandemic, which I did not believe. Then shortly after that, a Batman movie came out, and they are frequently in pretty close competition, I think, basically based on, who likes those type of movies, etc. But the Batman movie seems to have totally failed to the extent.
Is that guy begging?
What's the
No,
matter?
that's a washcloth. See,
But
in America, we go down the right side of the street.
Yeah, and they're firing everybody at Warner Brothers who works for DC Entertainment, I think, because that movie bombed.
Yeah,
So-
well, I think this isn't Warner Brothers, isn't that the parent company of CNN? And it's-
Time Warner, yeah.
And it's not a streaming service, it's a steaming service. A steaming
Steaming.
pile of you-know-what.
Yeah. CNN Plus.
Of human fertilizer.
I think CNN Plus gets fewer weekly viewers than Crowdsource.
I know it does. And the caliber of their top analysis is emphasis in the first four letters. And it's just horrible.
I can tell you, if Chris Wallace calls, look, these people are in the market for a bong, Charles. Like, oh, much better selection than in Germany. But
I think the politicians in Germany are all big bong users. And nuts.
uh-oh,
What?
something sounds like a protest now.
What?
I thought I heard somebody chanting.
I didn't hear it. There's the Strand, what's left of it.
Oh yeah. So there's that book
Sorry?
that I just found out about, this book that we were talking
Oh,
about on
right.
David Hawkins' show. People who are sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We're watching David Hawkins' Discovery CSI, and we were talking about this book written by Willie Picton, or maybe Robert Picton, whichever one is in jail, in which he claims he's innocent, and he wanted the RCMP to preserve evidence, which
Right.
they then destroyed.
Of course.
Whoa.
It's incriminating.
Well, that's what I mean. And the thing is, it seems like if the guy is saying he's innocent and urging you to save the evidence, I'd be looking more closely at the people who chose to destroy the evidence,
Well,
and instead they won't let you get this book, and I'm trying to see where we can read it. Oh, that's a Hunter Biden.
It's a Hunter Biden.
Oh, this is priceless, Charles.
Why don't we take that down to the gallery and see if we can't get $500,000 for it?
It's like Fozzie Bear.
You know?
Yeah, Hunter
Take it
Biden.
down as authentic.
George Berger.
You'll sign it Hunter, right?
Yeah.
In his handwriting.
You got to
Put
blow
some crack
crack
on it, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is a wreck down here right now.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
what is everybody waiting to get in? Looks like sneakers.
Yeah. All you have to do is just say these are super expensive and super exclusive, and tourists will come from around the world and get in line.
Right.
And here's Grace
And there
Church.
it is, Charles.
Of course, when I went to school there was a big ass tree that went way up the side of the church, and I never did it, but there were some.
Climbing it.
The minister's son, he had several sons. One got in a lot of trouble. Loved to climb up the tree and jump from the tree onto the church and then slide down the church.
Oh my God.
Nothing risky
Seems
about that.
Dangerous.
I know. But I believe I'm correct about this, that this church is famous for many things, but for one interesting thing.
What's that?
The actual person, Tom Thumb, was married in there.
I didn't realize there was an
There was.
actual person, Tom.
Yeah. Now this church's doors are open, where St. Patrick's was closed. Now maybe they have an evening service. Let's see.
Should we go in there, or are you,
You
not
can't.
allowed
No,
to
no,
record?
not with a camera. But it really is. One of the most touching things, and people could do this for free, if you're here, you happen to be here on Christmas Eve, there is a carol service where there are lessons, but the choir sings, and the audience can sing along with the choir. And it's a very moving thing. They take all the choir has these little kids. I was one of the little kids, and then I grew up. But they take the little kids and they put the small ones in the front, and then they stair step them up, and they enter. They used to darken the center of the church, and they'd throw open the doors. So it's called a chantry. They'd throw open the doors, and these kids would come out singing. The choir would come out singing, holding candles, and it's breathtaking. If you have a good choir and a good audience, the acoustics in the church are quite good. It's beautiful. If you have, on the other hand, people who can't sing, it's like, for me, it's like scratching your nails down a chalkboard.
That was a major part of cathedral and church design, right? Was the acoustics of it.
There's something called sacred geometry, which is
Right.
actually very interesting stuff.
Yeah. Should we head west?
Let's go down 9th.
Okay.
It's or we can go through the park.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
We'll
Close
go
it up
down.
there.
Let's wait here.
Yeah.
But some of these church buildings, obviously they were built with slave labor, so not from
know
Africa, but white slaves.
What do you mean?
Well, Well, I mean, you lose a war, you're a slave. This is nice garbage adjacent, right?
That's a guy collecting cans
look out of the garbage.
Boy, what a thing.
I don't think Joe Biden could run that operation. The
What?
can collection and
Right.
rebagging operation. I don't think he could supervise it. One
That's a
for
lot of
me,
cans.
one for Hunter, one for Jim, one for Jill.
Right,
one for
10% for the big guy.
10% for the charity, 90% for him. So, but anyway, when you look at some of these buildings, for example, Notre Dame, with the fire.
Oh yeah, what
in
happened
Paris.
with that?
Well, they're now nobody really knows. I think it was terrorism, but nobody knows. What's that sound? So they just discovered an 11th or 12th century sarcophagus underneath. They're excavating right to rebuild, and they discovered a sealed sarcophagus, and they don't yet know who was buried there, but it's certainly going to be an important person.
Maybe it was Joe Biden.
And
Right,
Nancy
there he is.
Pelosi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't finish the vignette. We'll go all the way down to.
You want to go to 8th?
Well, no. Let's go.
The park.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry.
We'll go to the middle of the park there,
Yes.
some Washington Place.
Which story?
So about Jill Biden on the podcast with Hillary Clinton. We didn't finish that
right.
one. So Hillary Clinton, with a straight face, is on this podcast representing Clinton Global Initiative University, which does not exist, has never
Right.
existed, has operated in multiple states, is not a charity. It's a joke. It's a very bad joke. Congratulating Dr. Jill Biden for teaching at a community college, saying that Hillary Clinton, has long valued contributions made by community colleges. She wouldn't know the difference between a community college and a zoo. She's an idiot.
No, she doesn't care. Everything she says is so disingenuous.
But doing it on this podcast, paid for by the Clinton Foundation, which has not filed properly any paperwork anywhere, following a period where the Trump University was forced to shut down because New York State, the Clinton Global Initiative University, its affairs, I would argue, are directed from New York. The Trump Foundation had to shut down the Trump Foundation and the Trump University, which he's on a podcast yesterday with Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden.
See, I wonder about these podcasts, Charles, because it seems like there's a lot of podcast production capability with the Brookings Institution.
Right. What I don't understand is, I think podcasting is obviously taken off. I think there are more podcasting hours by far now, good, high quality podcasting hours, than there are on mainstream platforms. And, if there was no podcasting, there'd be more high quality.
Right. Hey, there's the donut pub there.
Wow.
Is that your same guy?
Yeah, Buzzy Gadould is his name.
Maybe we've seen that before and I forgot.
I didn't notice that before. I wonder why he's a billionaire.
What's with the demons on the
Don't know.
building next door.
Don't know.
Winged demons.
This liquor store is an interesting place, Jason. You're not really into liquor that much, but I have discovered in here that the prices are very good, and the selection is surprisingly good.
Well, NYU, we bought booze like crazy from there.
Yeah. Waiting to be 21, of course.
Well, I graduated NYU, I was 22.
I mean, you didn't have any booze until you were 21, is my
I
point.
don't remember.
Yeah, I don't recall, Senator.
Yeah, that is to say I have no recollection.
I have no present intention to retroactively break the law.
You can go that way if you want.
Okay. Chasing the garbage. Chasing the big good life.
Well, you know, this is 721 Broadway, Charles, where I spent a large amount of my college time.
Outside living on the street, or were you?
Well, that's the film school, you know, NYU building there, so there was editing stuff in there. And
Did you have like your own sound stages and sets?
there was a sound stage in there, but you've got to be in the graduate program to access the sound. I actually taught a class on the sound stage,
Wow.
but never had my own class on the sound stage. And I remember being annoyed that they didn't do that, and that I would have done the curriculum much differently at film school if I were running it.
Maybe
And,
you should create your own film school.
well, I advise anybody who is like, oh, so one of my nieces is going to, not NYU, but to a film school, and I try to not give,
Take the money and run, Dad.
it's actually my cousin's kid, so I don't know if that's my niece or what.
Cousin,
but
kid.
I
Second.
try to pretty much stay out of like
Sure.
my opinions of what they should do with their kids, because it's their
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, exactly.
But I just think it's a huge mistake to go to film school for anybody in 2022, because you could learn anything they're going to teach you there and more on your own.
In 6
Save the
months.
money.
In 3 months, probably, if you're good technically.
Here's a lobster pot.
Yeah. Nice. There's a nice Range Rover.
Yeah.
Amazing that people would just leave a beautiful white car like that on the street, hope and not think about the assholes who sleep around here might just key it.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody had a video, maybe it was the Post, of a guy walking around with a metal stick just smashing the windows on people's cars. And by the way, if you got the window smashed on your car right now, you might be without a car for 2 months getting that thing
Right.
fixed.
Right, now here's a nice garbage adjacent bicycle collection.
Yeah, so I don't really think Eric Adams is doing anything.
You're
improve
definitely
the
going to
city.
go into this souvenir store with all the garbage. Buy some
just
food in
stinks.
there and you can take your garbage.
It literally reeks right here.
So we're bringing the Bangladesh back.
Oh, God.
Dream
eat
until
anything
it's your
around here.
reality. That's the Biden family motto.
What did it say?
Dream until it's your reality.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll go around the path and over to 8th and drop you in a normal spot.
Sure. I mean, the stink right there is so bad, Charles. Even if you were starving when you came over here, for me at least, the first desire would be to get the hell away from that.
You get on the plane, I don't mean to pick on Bangladesh, fresh off the boat from Bangladesh, you find yourself on that street, and you get on a telegraph or whatever you use to get back. Look at these.
Yeah,
There are people living here.
I know, and that's an NYU building.
And they get on their smoke signal, they send a carrier pigeon back to Bangladesh saying, I'm coming home, Bangladesh is better than here.
Yeah. So let's see if the park is going crazy today.
Yeah. No, I think the answer to that question is right in front of you. That guy's always muttering and walking through
I
the park.
missed him on camera.
Yeah. The natives are restless, Jason.
Now, wait a minute, the fountain is blasting, it looks like.
Yeah.
That's new.
You want to go that way?
Yeah, let's go here and check out what's happening with the fountain. So I guess they're keeping out the Schmiegels now that...
There's NYU guys smoking weed to the right.
Yeah.
You're going to make me maintain this building? I'm going to do it high.
It's legal weed. Yeah, that guy's got a jar full of weed. Did you see that?
I did. He's probably got a PPP loan.
I mean, Charles, this has just become Weed Park.
It's
bad for
always
kids.
been like this.
but not so open.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. It was pretty bad when I was in the 70s.
But they had it under control for a while. Definitely in
go,
the
fellow
90s, it was
Yale.
smoke. But it was down low, right? Little kids weren't necessarily subjected to that.
Yeah, you didn't have the smoke wafting through. Oh, is that a collection of stupid bikers?
Is it?
That-
It is.
I think it is.
Yeah, they're riding around the bikes. But we do
Getting
have a
ready
fountain
to
going.
swarm.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big collection of stupid bikers. And this crazy band. Now, where's the weed kiosks? Are they packing up or?
I don't know.
Here, they're right here, getting ready for business or going home because it was too cold.
There's a cop over there
Is he
doing
texting?
nothing. Maybe. Here's the bike swarm ready to go. Remember, they vastly
But it-
outnumber us, so we're not
Right,
getting.
and they're sort of like planning something, doesn't it look like?
There are little kids there, tiny kids, in the swarm.
What's the deal?
And we can feel safe, Jason. There's a whole bunch of
Now
cops.
wait, so what's going on? These cops are here, and they're doing what? They're like staring these guys down. This is strange. Of course, you got the one right there texting. Two texting. Unbelievable.
You want to get you a nose ring?
No, thanks.
That's $1 million per year minimum of wage costs right there.
For the cops to stand
Just
around.
those cops, yeah.
Right. Standing around doing nothing.
I think the phrase is "sweet fuck all."
Exactly.
And this gentleman, I think, is a street liver. I don't think he's a resident of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. He's a
Well,
resident of Waverly.
There is the police van that seems to have brought those cops here.
Yeah.
It's taken up the place of a former COVID test spot.
And they have put these railings in. I wonder if that they're getting set to block people in there.
Okay. Thanks, man.
I don't know.
That's Easter Best's Easter
Yeah.
finery.
These are some Easter boots.
Looks good.
Yeah, those ladies are from out of town. Nobody in New York has boots like that.
As what?
Boots like that.
Yeah.
That's like a Dallas look or something.
Yeah, exactly.
This person is waiting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hard
no-
at it.
nobody
He's
is
testing
really
people,
getting-
frantically testing people.
Right, nobody is really getting tested.
Just there's another fat biker. Fat bike. Tired there, Jason.
I was
So
looking
going
at this.
going across
Yeah,
the light. It's just like
all over the place.
F you.
Maybe this dude with the Hemi can run him over. Supercharged.
Those bike swarms are going to get worse and worse.
I'm not really sure what the point of them
It's
is.
just mayhem. It's like wilding. You know, let's go out. We'll
Do wheelies.
bump into cars, cause people to get out of our way. You know, we'll show you.
I still just don't even understand what the upside is. Like, why are they in that?
I don't think they're in a world of comparing upside with downside.
Right.
Jason. I think
Just like
there's
something
not
to do.
a lot of logic in the logic.
This is one of the stupidest cars ever produced, Charles.
A Hummer?
H3.
Why is it stupid?
Because it's like the McDonald's veggie burger.
Oh.
Nobody buying a Hummer wants a smaller car.
Right.
And nobody who wants a smaller car is buying a Hummer.
That's right.
It's the automotive equivalent
Biden.
of the world's tallest midget.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, world's dumbest president.
He's not smart enough to be dumb. He's
Yes.
demented.
Wow, the wind is really surprising. The garbage, however, is not.
Well, we have the scavengers, hunter-gatherers.
This is the most radio interference corner imaginable.
You want to go down 9th?
No, it's fine. We're through it.
Okay.
We just got to blast through that little interference section.
A lot of garbage
I
there.
don't know. I mean,
You would have thought that, I mean, just a very sensible thing. If you're an apartment complex of more than X units, you've got to arrange for your
A
garbage
garbage
to be
bin to sit there and put it in.
Well, you got to put it out on the street to be collected within an hour. Or you have
or how about any building that produces that amount of garbage should have some vehicle associated with the building that is a garbage container that you fill up, and when it's full, it drives somewhere with the garbage and comes back to receive more garbage.
Right. That would be, well, here we have garbage adjacent.
It's just,
I call bullshit.
I really want to know, what is
see.
one,
A Harvard sweatshirt. I call bullshit.
was
on
he?
that.
Oh, I didn't see it. Has
okay.
Eric Adams done one single thing where he has sort of said, hey, here's a new idea we're going to do, and then here's how we're doing
He's just, I mean, he is, anybody who can make Bill de Blasio look competent,
it? Yeah,
you know, this guy Adams is pathetic.
he really is.
And the argument, you know, the arguments for remaining in New York City and putting up with the crime and the filth and the taxes, they just are evaporating.
They are. More and more people moving out still.
Well, and in certain cases, you know, you get to, I've lived through in New York, when I first came here as a young child, New York was thriving.
Yeah.
In the early 60s, it was booming. And many, many large multinational corporations were based here. Then they started fleeing. And then in the 90s, they started coming back. And I think this time, what you're going to see, you know, Goldman Sachs, which is a very large, giant, what do they call it? The giant vampire squid. Matt Taibbi wrote something about it. It's a gigantic financial institution which was rooted to Manhattan, and they've already moved a large numbers of employees to Florida and elsewhere. And before very long, people are going to say, you know what? F New York. People, you know, maybe the fashion industry will say, you know, F it.
Wow.
We're gone.
RT had a story that said that Shenzhen, China,
Has more billionaires.
surpassed the United States for more billionaires. Guess how many billionaires in Shenzhen, Charles?
330.
1,133.
Oh, there you go.
So a lot of 33s.
Did you write that story?
I didn't write it. It was in RT. But more billionaires in Shenzhen. They definitely have more terracotta warriors there.
Is that Shenzhen or Xi'an? Xian.
Xi'an. I thought it was Shenzhen because that's where maybe if you can drive to, I don't know. It
It's
was
technically an Xian.
8 years ago that I was there, so maybe I'm misremembering, but
You're misunderstanding?
I actually got an email from that person, the Chinese, well,
Dr. No?
not the person associated with the film festival, one of the Chinese people who I had suspected of wanting to steal my 3D technology.
One of the many?
One of two
Uh-huh.
who actively tried to court me to do that. And when I was like, this contract doesn't say anything about how I'm getting paid, they're like, oh, ha ha ha.
Oh,
Don't worry about
come
that,
anyway.
just come to China. Yeah,
Come
we'll
anyway.
work all that out. And I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah. So I think I got interrupted on the Durham filings.
What was that?
So that basically he's alleging now in the filings, insinuating when people are surmising that Christopher Steele has turned and is cooperating.
I just don't believe that.
But he's specifically alleging now conspiracy and that Sussman deceived 2 federal agencies. And
That I believe.
Well, that's very serious. As a lawyer doing that, that's a really serious problem.
We're going to find out how seriously crimes done by lawyers are taken pretty
Right.
soon.
Let's hope.
Yes.
we really
Oh,
went.
What's going on here, Charles?
We went way over. There's more police headed uptown.
But wait,
This is just a art thing. Gillian Mark, whatever that is.
it's
It would seem that there's some sort of emergency uptown.
oh well, yeah. It looks like there's quite a few sirens.
Let's hope it's
going
not
on.
at 25th Street.
Interesting.
Anyway, this has been a super long show. I didn't realize how.
2 hours 38. Well, Charles,
I'm gonna
it's
drop
been an
it.
interesting show. Yeah, the gorilla is Joe Biden, perhaps. But
Have you ever been into Bigelow's?
yeah,
That's a very famous, one of the oldest pharmacies in America.
yep. Is it closed?
On Sundays, it's closing up now.
Oh, okay. So it's not out of business. Well, anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching and remind people to become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. It's the only thing that keeps the show going. So if you enjoy the show, please become a sponsor. Thanks for a great show, Charles. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good weekend. And a nice night. And happy Easter.
And Passover. There must be a Hindu thing we could throw into. Whatever.
Well, Ashura is the Muslim flip side of Passover, but they would be upset about everybody fleeing, I would think.
All right.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody.